I don't understand why the Earth suddenly plunged into darkness and these giant mutated beasts took this opportunity to invade the planet at this moment. Destiny decides everything. Those who awaken to power will gain immense strength admired by thousands, while those who feel but have yet to awaken to power remain. They will also be taken in by the great forces. The carefree young man lost in thought is looking at this screen. This is Lai Van Mew, an utterly ordinary high school student. While the whole world is chasing fame and power, he is lost in silly games, while his big-chested sister is desperately calling for help on one side. "Hey, I'm here, my love, don't rush!" Just as he was focused, someone rushed past and bumped into him, shouting, "Get out of the way, get out of the way, the convoy of Master Hu Yen is about to pass." A lot of police cars followed along with the murmurs of admiration from the crowd when they saw the big shot. "Oh my God, I see him!" Li Van Mu clearly showed his difference, going his own way, curling his lip in disdain. "What's so great about power? I'd rather pay attention to this girl." After saying that, he turned and left. "I don't care about the big shot at all. I'm glued to the character in the game, sis. I'm here about to start." The female character in the game looked straight at him and addressed the player. "If you want to start the game, please place your hand in the light." Without thinking, Van Mu followed the instruction, and immediately the screen emitted a powerful energy. The blinding light made the young man wince and his hand was pulled into it. The girl announced on behalf of the system, "Animation touch successful." The shadow system was officially activated, and the screen began to flicker. Meanwhile, the young man still had no idea what was happening. The shadow system. Why is it like this? Wait a minute. In his shadow, something was moving. What the hell is that? A terrifying figure emerged, and at that moment, the young man's face went pale. Did this guy just crawl out of my shadow? The notification system chimed, "Shadow manifestation completed. Congratulations, you have succeeded. The system will reward experience points each time you complete a mission, and you can use these points to exchange for rewards." Van Mu stood frozen for a few seconds. Could this be the powerful system that novels often mention? I'm going to be rich? The system continues to announce that this shadow can only be seen by the user. You can use the shadow to fight and complete missions. Van Mu tried swinging his hand a bit, exclaiming, "So this is what my shadow has turned into. I can control it too. Hey, this system is from the game, and the rewards might be countless beautiful girls." Just thinking about it, the young man gleefully picked his nose to see if there were any tasks he could do right now. "Anything easy I'll do first." Van Mu took a deep breath and shouted, "Go my shadow charge forward." But suddenly its body shrank quickly. Van Mu was surprised, his face scrunched up. "Hey, what's going on? Why did it shrink like this?" The shadow slipped into the grass, throwing a punch at an ant, making it fall flat. Then it turned and kicked another one in the stomach. Van Mu sat there stunned. The spirit beside the grass exclaimed, "So my shadow can fight so fiercely." A few minutes later, another notification came in, "Mission to eliminate ants completed. Do you want to receive your reward now?" Van Mu's eyes lit up, jumping up and cheering. "Of course, why wouldn't I? I'm not stupid." The young man slowly raised both hands, and the light from the reward shone directly onto him. He felt a tingling sensation all over. "This is the power. I can feel the power now." Before I could only dream about this, but now it has become a reality, and I'm rushing home. My mouth can't stop shouting as if I want the whole world to know, Mom, I can feel the power now. I have the chance to awaken." Suddenly, two people standing by the road whispered to each other. The man asked, "Isn't that the kid from the Lai family?" "He probably doesn't know about this." The aunt beside him replied, "Definitely. If not, why would he dare to come back at this time?" He didn't even notice the situation outside and just rushed inside. I stepped in carefree, saying, "Mom, I've taken a step into the clouds," but immediately the scene before me stunned me. My mom was handcuffed behind her back, and she shouted loudly, "Get out of here, Tiumuk!" I immediately recognized these guys as the mystics I had encountered before. My mom shouted again, "Tiumuk, don't worry, just run!" My emotions were chaotic. I stood frozen, not knowing what to do. Suddenly, one of them teleported, twisted my neck, and restrained me. He sneered and ran away. "If you know what's good for you, keep your mouth shut and stay still." I wasn't afraid. I turned around and questioned, "Who do you think you are barging into my house like this?" The man replied in a deep voice, "Your father, while carrying out his mission, escaped, causing a government squad to be wiped out. We were ordered to investigate." After saying that, he released me, and I grimaced, shouting back, "My dad, no way. My dad is someone who always risks his life to protect others. He would never do something like that." The guy puffing on a cigarette spoke up, "Calm down, kid. We're just starting our investigation. If anything's wrong, just come with us. The investigation will clarify everything." But I couldn't accept that truth. I dashed away like lightning. I snatched the gun from his hand. The man was stunned and didn't react in time. I stopped, turned around, and aimed the gun straight at him, shouting, "My dad would never run away from a fight. Don't frame good people. Let my mom go right now or else." The henchman laughed. "Kid, stop messing around. This gun can only be activated by someone who can sense the power. What can you do with it? Now, don't play with Uncle's gun anymore. I felt the power and quickly channeled it into the gun, activating it. I shouted at the man, "This is because you forced me!" The guard accompanying him panicked and yelled, "The energy beam is lighting up. That kid is a sensor, stop him." The more threatened I felt, the more determined I became. I unconsciously pulled the trigger. The bullet charged with the energy beam shot straight towards the man in the black glasses. Contrary to all expectations, the man only lost his cigarette and hat, showing no difficulty in stopping that bullet. Contrary to all expectations, the man only lost his cigarette from his mouth and his hat from his head, facing no difficulties in stopping that bullet. Van Mook gritted his teeth in anger and stammered a question. Is this really the power of a mystic? The man showed no signs of anger as he calmly approached Van Mook, announcing unexpectedly that the kid was able to sense the mystical power and that they had no right to detain him. "But we must definitely take your mother away." Van Mook shouted, "I won't let you take my mother anywhere." His father was definitely innocent, and seeing the tense situation spiraling out of control, his mother spoke up to advise him to leave. "You should listen to them." Van Mook was about to speak, but she cut him off. "Mom really didn't know you could sense the mystical power. It's just a pity that your parents might not be able to witness your growth anymore. I have always hoped you would have a bright future ahead. Remember to take good care of yourself. Your parents will be proud of you." His mother was taken away. The man brushed past him and said, "I also believe your father is innocent, but everything must follow its own rules, and if you want to save your mother, you need to hurry. Awaken your mystical power, kid. At this point, are you still being stubborn?" Tuan Mook had nothing left to lose and began to accept the reality. He was determined to plan his path to becoming a mystic. There was only 1 week left until next Friday, which would be the mystical power test. It only happens once a year, and if he missed it, he would have to wait another year. He turned to the system and asked, "How many experience points do I need to awaken?" "Mystical power," the system replied immediately. 100,000 points. Your own sensing power can also be converted into experience value. Van Mook looked at the score of 100,000 and sighed in frustration. "Am I supposed to kill 100,000 ants in a week to awaken?" Hearing his doubts, the system suggested, "The system can automatically level up without you having to worry." Van Mook didn't have time to think and immediately ordered to activate the auto-leveling mode. The system promptly replied, "Understood," and Van Mook's shadow shot away. While his shadow was grinding for experience, Van Mook sat dazed, muttering, "If I just rely on that shadow, I definitely won't make it. I need to train harder and sense more mystical power. Only then will the chance of awakening be more certain." Van Mook took out the book, 100 Ways to Sense Mystical Power, and began to study it intently. Memories of his father, Lee Trung Dan, suddenly flooded back into his mind. This book was the birthday gift his father had given him. Looking at the book, his eyes lit up with determination as he told himself, "Dad, wait for me! This time I will protect you!" A week passed in the blink of an eye, and the important day had arrived. This was high school number 16 in Katfong City. Class 12A3, where Van Mook was studying, was filled with tension as the teacher's voice rang out. "Today you will participate in the most important day of your lives, the Mystical Power Awakening Test. If you haven't awakened your power yet, that's okay. But I hope you all will strive harder to become good citizens when you step out into society. If you're lucky enough to awaken your power, you will join the protective forces, fighting against space monsters and becoming noble guards. And if you can awaken during this test, you will become heroes revered by all. Although the odds are very low still, you are the greatest hope of the Central Continent." Suddenly, Van Mook burst through the classroom door shouting, "Teacher, wait a minute, I'm sorry I'm late." After saying that, he panted heavily. It seemed he had run at full speed to school. The students then moved to the gym to start the test as the teacher's announcements echoed continuously. "Vuong Vuong has not awakened." Next, Van Mook sat in the corner of the classroom panting and lamenting, "That was close. I almost lost my chance to take the mystical power test." You look around and realize that the number of participants has decreased significantly. It seems many have already given up. Suddenly, a voice rang out beside him. "Oh, wow, isn't that Lee Van Mook? I thought your cowardly self would skip this exam. I can't believe you're still so thick-skinned." Tien Phi, a classmate from the 12A3 class, is the only son of a wealthy merchant family. He didn't forget to mock the situation with your dad. Everyone in this city knows about it. "What are you trying to act tough for now?" The guy next to him chimed in. "Exactly. You think Huyen is just some easy target anyone can do whatever they want." Meanwhile, the students around intentionally spoke loudly for Van Mook to hear saying that his dad had fled when danger struck. Before I knew he was in the military, I was thinking of getting close to him. Looking back, I was really lucky. A loud shout suddenly rang out, silencing everyone. "Tien Phi, you little scoundrel! You're just jealous of Van Mook because he's close with the school beauty, right? If you know what's good for you, get lost. Don't stay here barking nonsense." This guy is Truong Kai Van Muk's close brother, pointing at the group next to Tien Phi, letting it all out. You guys should take off that hypocritical mask. You wanted to use me to get close to Van Muk, and now that his family is in a bit of trouble, you come back to bite him. Do you have any shame left? Tien Phi realized he couldn't argue with someone who had nothing to lose, turned around and walked away scoffing, just a stray dog without support. Let's see how long you can keep that bravado. Once everything calms down, Truong Kai sighed in satisfaction. That felt good. My literary skills are getting better every day. Van Muk turned to smile and said thanks. Truong Kai pointed at himself, chuckling. We're friends, no need for formalities. How's your dad doing? Is everything okay? Van Muk replied with a serious expression. It's nothing, you don't need to worry. They said they're still investigating and we're just here to line up. We're almost up. Lamla, the school beauty, and also Van Muk's childhood friend ran over, calling out to him, Hey! You came here just to cheer me on for the exam, right? The moment the two faced each other, Truong Kai quickly slipped away, saying, I don't want to be a third wheel. I'll go line up first, Van Muk replied straightforwardly. It's not what you think. We're here to take the exam, too. Lam Lee continued, her expression turning serious. Van Muk, I've heard about your dad. Although it might not be the right time, I still want to tell you that a few days ago I sensed the mysterious power. Van Muk noticed the indifference in Lam Lee's words and pressed, Really? Lam Lee continued, her voice steady yet determined. This might be a bit selfish, but I really want to step into the high realm that everyone dreams of. Even if there's only a tiny chance, I want to try, so I'm sorry. Lam Lei pretended to be tearful, looking pitiful, but Van Muk understood her true intentions. He smiled on the outside, but cursed her in his heart. In the past, all those promises and flattery were just to gain benefits from his dad's reputation. What childhood friends? What protection? It's all just a lie. My father always taught me to know a person's face, but not their heart. It's really true that from the very beginning, they all deceived each other for their own interests. Lam Lei noticed he was silent and felt a bit worried, fearing it might affect her image, so she continued to play the role of the kind girl, asking Van Mu, Are you okay? Van Mu turned on his heel and coldly replied, I get your point. I wish you passed today to achieve your dream. After saying that, he walked straight up to the inspection podium, glancing past the crowd waiting in line. Jung Kai, his close friend, shouted out, Hey, Van Mu, you're in line here. I've saved a spot for you, come over. But Van Mu pretended not to hear and kept walking up to the inspection podium. Just then, Tien Phi, feeling smug, chuckled. Finally, it's my turn. Van Mu stepped up, threw money at Tien Phi, and shouted loudly, Get out of the way! Tien Phi fell to the ground, yelling and cursing, You crazy bastard! What gives you the right to cut in line? Don't you know your place? Van Mu coldly replied, What gives me the right? The fact that I'm a mystic now. As he spoke, he pressed his hand on the inspection machine, causing it to flash brightly, the aura of a mystic radiating around him. Everyone could see it. Lam Lei watched in horror, stammering, No way, could it be? Tien Phi was also stunned, sweating profusely, cursing under his breath. This dog actually got it together. He really is a mystic. Suddenly, Jung Kai jumped in, visibly excited, putting his arm around Van Mu, trying to dampen his overwhelming aura, laughing, Dude, you really got it. You kept it hidden well. From now on, let's see who dares to look down on you again. A man in glasses approached holding a box, surprised that at just 16, he could encounter such a good seed. You don't need to rely on external things to stimulate. You can achieve enlightenment on your own. This is your mystic badge from this moment on. You'll enjoy all the special privileges that the Alliance offers to mystics. Jung Kai, with a blank expression, took the badge and asked, Who is this old man? Van Mu grimaced and snapped at Jung Kai. Let go of me, this is so embarrassing. Surprised, Lam Lei walked towards him, continuing to play the weak girl, saying Van Mu about that. Van Mu scratched his head, mocking, What should I say? Let me think. He brushed past her, repeating her words. Maybe I'm being selfish saying this, but I really want to step into that high realm everyone dreams of. So I'm sorry. Van Mu walked away. His words hit Lam Lei like a ton of bricks, leaving her speechless. A while later, when he got home, Van Mu called his mom. She sounded overjoyed. Oh, that's wonderful. My son has truly awakened his mystic powers. Dad is no longer being pursued, and he's receiving the best treatment. Van Mu replied, I'm grown up now, Mom. Don't worry too much. Just take good care of Dad. I'll visit him when I have time. After hanging up, Van Mu looked down at the badge on his chest, telling himself, Is this really the badge that everyone longs for? It looks pretty normal. You suddenly realize that the main function of the Phantom Badge is to act as a bridge to activate the Void Realm and the four-dimensional space. Knowing this, Van Mook joyfully thinks to himself, So that means I can step into the Void Realm and activate it right away, just as he thinks that a notification rings out that the Void Realm is about to be activated. Successfully activating the Phantom Badge. Phantom number 930.664. Van Muak possesses the right to enter the Void Realm, which is currently updating. As the upload process completes, his body is suddenly pulled into a twisted space. A few seconds later, Van Muak opens his eyes to see many bright spots resembling snowflakes covering the ground. Aside from that scene, he sees nothing else and starts to wander around to explore. But suddenly, he notices something behind him and spins around shouting, "Who's there?" What catches Van Muak's eye are two lifeless mannequins. He sighs and thinks to himself, what kind of weird stuff is this? Just randomly placed here making people jump out of their skin. At that moment, a hearty laugh rings out right behind him, almost making Van Muak wet himself. He quickly turns his head back, and he sees that the culprit is a stuffed bear bouncing around, making Van Muak even more confused, cursing in his mind, what kind of toy is this? Luckily, the stuffed bear means no harm. It hops closer and greets him, "Hello, I'm your guide. You can call me Pedro. This place is the Void Realm, and it's also where you can acquire all kinds of techniques and combat forms. No kidding, this is the most important place for a phantom to enhance their strength. Next, please set up your form in this Void Realm." Van Muak, bewildered, asks, "What do you mean by your forms? It's just me here." Pedro replies, "You young man sure love to joke. Clearly, there are two of you." "Our kind is only colorblind, not number-blind. Don't underestimate me." Van Muak points at his shadow, pressing, "You mean this counts too?" Upon receiving confirmation, Van Muak ponders in his mind about this Void Realm. It seems to consider his shadow as an independent entity. That's good. Who knows, it might help him break the binding rules of the void space. Thinking of that, he cheers with joy. All right, let's start creating the character. Eyes, nose, ears, mouth. Oh man, this is giving me a headache. It's best to just keep my face looking like it does in reality. Just need to change a bit of the outfit and I'm done. Van Muak also chooses a dynamic sports outfit for his shadow to facilitate future activities. Pedro continues to guide him. "If you two are all set, I will take you to the Void Realm right away. Are you ready?" Van Muak, still confused, asks, "Go right now, do I need to?" But before he can finish, the ground beneath him disappears and he falls, tears and snot streaming down as he screams. Give me a moment to prepare. As his eyes gradually adjust to this incredibly fast speed, he looks ahead and thinks, there it is, I see the light. Is that... Just as he thought, behind the clouds is the Void Realm, a luxurious and pristine world. Moreover, he and his shadow gently land on the ground. As if gravity didn't exist here, Van Muak glances around, evaluates for a moment, and exclaims, "Wow, this place is truly amazing." Pedro continues to explain the basic rules to him. Time in the Void Realm flows 3 times faster than in the real world, so those who frequently stay in this illusionary realm, they will have more time to train than others, which explains why all the big names are trying every possible way to set foot in this illusionary realm. Suddenly you hear the whispers of the crowd nearby. Oh, look, the people from the Hong tribe are challenging the great master of the ancient ways. You unconsciously look up at the screen above. Pedro, seeing you like this, immediately explains that this is the battlefield of the illusionary realm, a fictional combat system of this place. It perfectly copies all your powers to engage in battles with others. Naturally, many people choose it as a place to hone their combat skills. You are extremely excited. Let me join in quickly. Pedro is stunned for a long time, then laughs. Right now, all right, let's get you into the battlefield. As soon as he finishes speaking, the ground beneath you starts to disappear. Before long, the tall buildings also transform into lush trees. Suddenly, 2 items are abruptly sent to your hands. You look at them puzzled. What's this? Wow, why did it suddenly give me this? Suddenly, a whistling sound cuts through the air from behind, startling you as if you sense the taste of death. This feeling is quite strange. But thanks to this reaction, you quickly turn your head to the right to dodge the sharp arrow that was ambushing you, causing it to embed deep into the ground. The tip of the arrow still flickers with a lot of mysterious power. You immediately aim your gun at the arrow that just shot at you, ready to fight. A stranger appears above, looking amused. Haha, looks like my luck isn't too bad. To encounter a newbie like you in the very first battle of the day, you must be pretty unlucky. After saying that, he fires a flurry of arrows at you, but none hit their target. You roll a few times and dive into the bushes beside you. The guy chases after you while mocking, "Hey kid, don't think you can escape just by running away from me. Instead of wasting time like this, why not come out so I can finish you off quickly? It'll save you from suffering." However, you remain silent, not responding to him. The guy continues to push deeper, taunting, "You still won't come out after all this. Then don't blame me." Just as he finishes speaking, you suddenly appear right behind him and whisper, "What are you in such a hurry for?" He jumps in shock, realizing he's let his guard down. Immediately after, a bang sounds as you pull the trigger, blowing his head off and ending the battle. You put your hands in your jacket pockets and say a few words of wisdom. "You chased me down, but look where it got you." Truly foolish, you're just a newbie. But I'm not some newbie that anyone can toy with. High combat power, but tactics like a fool. Even the ants at home are stronger than you. The figure of that guy dissipates, revealing a golden orb along with a few smaller green orbs. You stare blankly, mumbling, "What is this?" Suddenly, the four orbs rush towards you, merging directly into your body, causing you to scream in pain. After a while, your legs feel weak and you sit down on the ground, panting heavily. You casually ask, "What was that just now? Why did it suddenly merge into my body? Did I mess up somewhere? Did I mess up somewhere?" At that moment, the system announced that the host had successfully absorbed the first non-virtual reward, which was the A-level Kim Trung technique in the battlefield of Dui-Do. If you defeat someone powerful, the host has a chance to receive non-virtual rewards that can be exchanged for techniques in the Dui-Do shops. Van Mu can't help but wonder right away. What technique are you talking about? The technique that humanity used to cultivate martial arts during its most prosperous era before the world fell into this dark age. The system then sent another 2 notifications. The Kim Trung technique you just received is a defensive skill of martial arts that can reduce damage taken by 30%. Each upgrade can prevent an additional instance of damage. Van Mu felt the powerful golden armor wrapping around his body and secretly smiled amazing. I need to quickly test its power. So he shouted loudly, "Pedro, where are you?" Suddenly, Pedro peeked his head out from the bushes nearby and replied, "I'm right here." Van Mu stepped closer and proposed, "I want to have another match, is that okay?" Pedro was stunned for a moment and then laughed. "You're going all out, huh? All right then." The next PK match started, and soon the system transformed into a different setting. Van Mu sighed in frustration. It always took so much time to change locations like this. What a hassle. Speaking of which, his opponent appeared a red-haired beauty with round, luscious eyes holding a pair of daggers as she stepped forward. It seems she didn't like sneak attacks like the first guy. Van Mu scratched his head awkwardly. "So you're my opponent. I've never hit a woman, not even with a handkerchief, but to win I have no other choice," Van Mu thought without hesitation. He pulled the trigger, sending a cold bullet towards the girl. She quickly used her sword to deflect the bullet and shouted angrily, "How dare you sneak attack me, you cowardly man! Don't you feel ashamed or humiliated?" Van Mu leaned in close to her and whispered, "Listen, I'm here to win." Not to show off, so he swept his left dagger across, causing her to leap up high to dodge and circle around for a counterattack. The girl turned her head back and asked, "Are you a Huyen Luke user?" Van Mu, confused, asked back, "What Huyen Luke?" The girl infused her daggers with Huyen Luke and slashed down, shouting, "You don't even know what Huyen Luke is. You must really be a novice." Van Mu gathered his strength and pushed her away, shouting back, "What the hell are you trying to say?" The girl rolled a few times and landed quite far away. She took a deep breath and casually said, "Forget it, let's finish this quickly." Suddenly, her Huyen Luke surged powerfully, enveloping her body unusually as if she had activated some attack technique. The moment her eyes opened, she sprang into action, moving like lightning to slash at Van Mu, who was still standing frozen in place. Before he could comprehend what was happening, fresh blood sprayed up to his eye level, and he realized he had just been cut, pain crashing over him as he screamed in agony. The technique she just used is called the Heavenly Ultimate 36 Techniques. She thought Van Mu was weak, and didn't even bother to look back, standing there mocking him with her Heavenly Ultimate. "These 36 techniques of mine are top-tier techniques. No one can." She hadn't finished her sentence when Van Mu appeared beside her out of nowhere. The girl was shocked, utterly astonished. She intended to return to a defensive stance to continue fighting, but it was too late. Van Mu swiftly slashed across her, ending the duel. He continued to play along. "Didn't you just say no one can—" "What was that? I didn't catch it." The consciousness of the girl gradually faded back to the void, trembling as she thought to herself, "This is impossible. Could it be that he has that technique?" Over on the side, Van Muck's injuries are being healed by the system as he groans about the pain, thinking he was definitely going to lose to that last move. Those 36 moves are an attack technique, but luckily my golden armor absorbed quite a bit of the damage. Just then, the system notification rang out again. "Congratulations! You've earned 76 points and simultaneously grasped the basic skill Frenzied Blade." Van Muck was a bit startled, exclaiming that it seems defeating stronger opponents yields even more rewards. The rewards just keep getting better, and he felt a surge of energy. Time to keep grinding Pedro for the next match. Meanwhile, outside the Void Realm, the notification of his victory appeared on the announcement board, and he heard someone mumbling that this defeat must be really annoying for Tiu Vu, having been beaten by a mere mystic. This was the one thing she always dreaded in her life. Who exactly is this guy? It's hard to believe he could withstand the Heavenly Ultimate 36 moves. Perhaps he possesses some rare defensive technique. Just managing to do that, the scene shifts to 3 days later in Van Thien City. Van Mook was carrying a basket of fruit, grumbling as he walked. "This big city is such a hassle. Just look at this shabby hospital. I searched for half a day and still couldn't find my dad. I already got the best treatment available. But why not choose a bigger hospital? This one is so remote and isolated. I wonder if the facilities are even adequate for my dad's treatment." Suddenly, he heard a familiar female voice nearby. "Please, please don't do that." Van Mook glanced over and saw a group of thugs cornering a girl against the wall. One of them spoke up. "Don't worry, we're just here to chat a little. We won't do anything to you, of course. If you open up and have a drink with us, that would be even better." The girl, hearing this, lowered her head, her face flushed, and murmured, "I'm sorry, but I really have urgent business." The leader smirked. "I understand. Your dad is in the hospital and needs money urgently, right? Of course you'll be compensated fairly. I'm not short on cash." Just as he finished speaking, a basket of fruit flew straight at his head, knocking him flat on the ground. His gang members, horrified, rushed to help their leader, but suddenly Van Muck appeared. Coldly, he told them, "If you're looking for a place to harass someone, I suggest you find another spot." The blue-haired thug turned around aggressively, questioning, "Who are you?" Van Muck ignored him, bent down to pick up the scattered fruit, and sighed, "Oh man, it's all ruined now. This was for visiting my dad in the hospital. How did it end up like this? It's all your fault, so you should compensate me." The girl stood still, recognizing Van Muck, and quietly asked, "Tu Muck, why are you here?" Van Muck looked at her, his expression unchanged, and cut her off. "Just stay right there. You're grown up now, yet you still can't take care of yourself and get into trouble." The blue-clad thug had now stood up, pulling out a knife and cursing, trying to intimidate the kid. "Do you know who your dad is?" Van Muck didn't hesitate, kicking the knife out of his hand, and calmly replied, "Of course I know who my dad is. But you seem to be clueless, so let me explain it to you." With that, Van Muck delivered a painful kick to his face, and screams along with threats echoed in the alley. But it was all in vain. Van Muck continued to beat him with great enthusiasm. After a while, each thug was left bloodied and motionless. Van Muck then rifled through his pockets. But everything seemed hopeless. Yet they continued to beat him fiercely, and after a while, each of them had their faces covered in blood, completely motionless while they searched his pockets, calmly using the guy in the blue shirt as a chair to sit down and sneering, "No way right. You went out and only brought back a little money, and you think you can act like a boss to others. I'm just taking that money for fruit, okay? The guy in the blue shirt is a total loser. Even my uncle has dealt with him, and the compensation is already enough. Are you ready for us to leave yet? This heroic role of saving the damsel in distress. One performance is enough. Are you really planning to protect this girl for life?" Van Muck flinched a bit and turned to look back. "Huh? What kind of hero saving a damsel in distress are you talking about? What nonsense are you saying? This girl is my sister." A moment later, Van Muck held the business card of that guy in her hand, read it, then shook her head and sighed. "Turns out he's Lu Tiu Kwang, who specializes in selling medicine. Every time I see you, it's a pile of trouble. Are you some kind of magnet for thugs, sis?" She followed behind, stumbling, only able to mumble 2 words, "I'm sorry." Van Muck sighed, "Forget it. If I hadn't run into you here, I wouldn't have found the hospital." As for that business card, the young man didn't care and tossed it straight into the trash. Liu Nuyen looked at Van Muck awkwardly and said, "Because Dad's injury is much worse than I imagined, so the money you've earned over the past few years has almost all been spent. But don't worry, I've been working hard to save money. I won't let Dad get kicked out of the hospital." Van Muck, after hearing this, had a puzzled expression. "Why does her face look so guilty? I'm not blaming you for anything. As an adopted child, you've already done enough. Leave the money matters to me. Right now, I'm a rich person. I have plenty of money. Well, during this time, you've worked hard enough already." A little while later, Liu Nuyen led Van Muck to the hospital. "Is this the place you go ahead to the patient room? I'll go pay the hospital fees." Liu Nuyen nodded but didn't forget to ask, "Do you know where Dad's room is?" Van Muck replied immediately, "I know already. You go ahead." A few minutes later, Nuyen entered the patient room and announced, "Dad, we're back." Van Muck's mother turned and smiled. "Yen Ni, is that you? You must be tired. Sit down and rest. Have some water." Van Muck's father, Lee Trung Dan, lay on the hospital bed, smiling weakly. "Sorry for bothering you so much, Tu Yen. You're so busy but still have to run back and forth taking care of this useless old man." "Thank you so much," Liu Nuyen replied with wide eyes. "Dad, don't say that again." She continued, "Oh, right. As for the hospital fees, Mom and Dad don't need to worry anymore. It's all been paid in full." Lee Trung Dan weakly replied, "See, I told you. Just come to borrow some money from Dad's friends. I'm sure they'll lend it to you right away." Just as I finished speaking, Van Muck unexpectedly walked in and interrupted me. "Hey, old man." I don't remember Dad having any friends like that. Both Van's parents were startled by his sudden appearance, but Van Muck didn't care and casually walked into the room. "How are you doing, Dad?" "Have you been feeling any better these past few days?" Dad tried to keep it light and replied to the little brat, "Without you annoying me, I've been feeling much better." However, Van Muck suddenly realized something. He froze when he looked at his father, Lee Trung Dan, and calmly said, "Why do you look so serious? Aren't you feeling fine? Is this how you normally talk?" "It's just that I don't have my legs anymore." "Why act like the sky is falling? It's a huge disaster and all Dad lost was his legs. That's still pretty lucky." "Oh, right, I'm covering the hospital bills, right? Where would a kid like you get that much money?" Van Muck saw him sit up and immediately reminded him, "Hey, Dad, don't move around too much or you'll reopen your wounds." I already told Mom about it. I've reached enlightenment and am now a true practitioner, so I'll be getting a monthly salary right after I see you say that. Dad didn't believe him and laughed heartily. Ha ha, stop joking around, kid. You don't even know how strong you are. Don't talk about enlightenment. You probably haven't even reached the sensitivity level yet. What do you mean by practitioner and salary? You're just making me laugh. Look at your wounds. Van Muck was so disrespected by his dad that he got angry and stormed out. If you don't believe me, fine, I'm going home. Let Dad fend for himself then. Lai Trung Dan got serious again and called out, still holding on to that childish attitude. How long do you think you can be a practitioner, Tiu Yen? Can you help me grab that box over there? And you, why are you just standing there? Go get it. Van Muck picked up the box and stood up puzzled. Isn't this the warrior armor that you love the most? Dad confirmed, yes, this armor can greatly enhance a practitioner's strength. Van Muck pressed on. Such a precious item, do you really want to give it to me? Trung Dan explained, I think I won't have the chance to use it anymore, so keeping it would be useless. Better to give it to you, but this armor can't be worn just any time. The materials are all bioengineered and exceed the limits of normal people. First, remember to keep it safe or it could bring you trouble. For someone with sensitivity to mystical power and who has reached enlightenment, it will help a lot. In other words, whether you can wear it or not. Isn't up to you? This armor will judge for itself whether you are worthy to wear it. Van Muck confidently declared, just to be clear, I'm not taking your stuff, okay? I'm just going to take it home to try it on. I'll just bring it back to try it on and see how it works. Moreover, Dad, don't worry, you'll have the chance to wear it again in the future because I will definitely find a way to help you stand up. With his own legs, Van Mu began to pump mystical energy into the armor, causing it to transform rapidly. After the continuous thumping sounds, he reached out to receive the parts of the armor. Come here and meet your new master. Liu, witnessing this scene, couldn't help but be amazed. Dad, is that really Li Zhongzhan? He replied proudly. Yes, that's him. It seems this guy isn't just bragging. He has truly awakened. Right after finishing, Van Mu was exhausted, panting heavily, but finally he was ready with his luggage. Tomorrow we have to go to Feng Van Bao and won't be able to return for a while. I really feel a bit reluctant. The scene shifts to the next day at the Mystic Guild in the city of Kafong. Isn't that the second son of the Wang family I told you already? Your young master will definitely awaken. Just then, someone walked over and shouted, Don't block the way, isn't that the first newcomer from the city of Kafong? This is the young master of the La Family Lafo. Around them, sounds of admiration began to rise. Look at Lafo, I heard his father has broken through to the highest realm of the mystic, becoming a super mystic. At that moment, Zhang Dahu, the son of the richest family in Kapong, also appeared. Isn't this place a bit shabby? Is this Tian Van Bao really trustworthy? Son, why don't we just go home instead? It's okay, Dad, it's just a little shabby. Just think of it as experiencing the life of common folks. Besides, I still have the money you gave me. It's fine. Just as he finished speaking, another character appeared, Liu Naijie, the granddaughter of the president of the Mystic Guild. Finally, today has come. At Tian Van Bao, I can finally meet my grandfather. All the prominent figures appearing made everyone even more excited than ever. This year, the city truly gathered all the talents with the top 8 of the Mystic Power exam in the academy, all having impressive results. At that moment, a firm voice rang out, I must say, you guys are really shallow. This year, our number 16 high school has also produced an awakened person. Who is the most ridiculous? Li Van Mu is even more ridiculous. He was even carried on a palanquin and wrapped in flowers, looking no different from a packaged gift, accompanied by the booming sound of gongs and fireworks. Come on, come on! Please welcome the awakened Li Van Mu, our number 16 representative. Van Mu stood there dumbfounded, feeling humiliated in front of everyone witnessing this scene. They couldn't help but wonder what this guy was doing. Look at that Zhang Dahu laughed so hard he almost peed his pants. Hey, Dad, look at that guy. Is he mentally challenged or what? Van Mu was sweating, his face scrunched up in embarrassment, wishing he could disappear. This was the most humiliating moment of his life, as he was paraded through everyone. The judgmental gazes made him feel suffocated. Liu Naijie, however, didn't show the same attitude as others and just smiled. So he also awakened this year. Just then, a woman stepped out and shouted, All right, it's almost time! All newcomers come over here. Next, we will split you into 2 groups and transfer you to Tianming Bao. If your name is called, step forward. The first group called was Fo. He was the first to be named with a cold expression and no emotion. He simply replied with a yes. The female supervisor continued to announce that you and Truong Dai Hung were placed in the same group of 2, and you could step through the teleportation door right now. Truong Dai Hung looked like a child discovering the world for the first time. Smiling brightly, he felt so lucky to be in second place. He turned to chat with LaFo. You're the young master of the La family, right? Have you ever teleported before? Is there any danger I'm really scared of dying? LaFo said, his tone showing annoyance. Can you be quieter? Less than a minute later, both of them vanished into the teleportation space. The female supervisor continued calling the next group Van Mook and Lu Nai Tiep. Upon hearing this, Lu Nai Tiep rushed over and grabbed your wrist. Pulling you strongly towards the teleportation door, the young man was still in a shy mode, not understanding what was happening when Lu Nai Tiep turned back and gently introduced herself. I'm Lu Nai Tiep. I'm really happy to meet you, Van Mook stammered in response. Really happy to meet you. Even as he said that, he thought to himself how pleasant her voice was. The scene shifted to the next morning. Without even fully waking up, Van Mook had to drag himself to class, yawning widely as he opened the door. Good morning, everyone. He looked around in surprise, only seeing Nai Tiep, who was also cheerfully waving and saying good morning. The young man was confused, wondering why he was the only one there. Where is everyone else? On the very first day, and they're skipping class together? Nai Tiep replied cheerfully, It's because the first classes are theory lessons on the methods of using illusion power in the illusion system and monster system. Most new students can sense illusion power from a very young age, so everyone has already completed their theoretical studies before coming here. Van Mook said, The theory class here is for those who suddenly awaken. He stuffed his hands into his pockets and sighed. Looks like we're just a bunch of fools. At least you're here. I'd be really embarrassed if I was the only one. Just as the two were talking, the teacher walked in looking extremely shocked. Are there actually students in class this year? It's indeed rare. I'm your teacher, so please return to your seats. Nai Tiep, why are you here? This person was the university teacher named Lai Bak Van. Upon hearing this question, Nai Tiep immediately ran up. Of course I came here specially to see you, teacher. Li Bak Van smiled and asked, It's been a while since I last saw you. How have you been? Yes, my grandpa is very healthy. His bones are still very strong. By the way, there are new students this year, so you have to teach them well. He's a good seed, but if you don't teach him well, you know what happens. Van Mook could only stare blankly, realizing the outcome as he watched his only friend walk out and wave enthusiastically. Well then, I'll go ahead. Remember to study hard. Van Mook just wanted to cry out loud, waiting for half a day, and it turned out he was the only fool left. As for the old teacher, he was still standing there thinking to himself that this was the first time he had students in class. In my class over the past 4 years, it seems like his foundation isn't particularly poor, but I must say this year there are basically no naturally awakened students. And it's not just based on blood and absorbing crystals. He also has a good relationship with my niece. This kid must have something special. Van Mook seemed sluggish, and the teacher asked, Are you feeling uncomfortable being alone in class? Do you want to switch seats? With only the two of them, there was no need to put on airs. The two of them went up to the rooftop to chat. Teaching. You really don't know anything at all. You don't even know about the physical system of illusion power. What kind of teaching is this? You really don't know anything. Not even the physical system of illusion. Van Mook replied curtly, not needing the teacher's concern yet. But Lai Bak Van still explained enthusiastically, detailing the levels of illusionists from low to high, common, crystal, black crystal, silver crystal, gold crystal, and rainbow crystal. Beyond that, it surpasses the level of illusionists and becomes a super illusionist. Hearing this, Van Mook suddenly felt motivated and jumped right into the main topic. Please tell me how. To elevate my level, please. Li Bak Van, sitting next to a can of soda, explained that to elevate your level, you first need to activate the illusion points with 12 points that can be activated on the left chest. The right chest and abdomen can enhance your defensive abilities, while the points on the soles of your feet and calves are used to boost agility. Your hands and arms are for enhancing your attack, and the points on your skull can help sharpen your nerve response. After activating these 12 points, you can reach the black crystal level. Van Mook jumped straight to the point, asking how to activate the illusion points. It's not hard to hit the points. You just need to defeat enough Duidao beasts. Absorb their illusion crystals. Time flew by quickly, and 3 days later all the new students were called to gather at one point. Van Mook was still the most clueless among them. Mumbling to himself, he wondered why everyone was called here so early in the morning. Were the teachers at school too free? Suddenly, Hao Vu stepped up to jab at him as a habit. Isn't this little brother still stuck learning theory every day? What era are we in? And there's still someone who has to study basic theory. I wonder how he got in here. Van Mook grimaced, pouting silently, feeling annoyed. Why does this guy keep picking on him? Did he steal his girl or something? Just then, Li Bak Van stepped in, giving Hao Vu a light tap on the head, then said sternly, In my class, no messing around. Get back in line. And you all come here quickly. Listen to me. Lai Bak Van continued in a humorous tone. Don't think just because I'm handsome and charming that I'm just a senior here. I'm a proper paid teacher at this school. After a moment, he became serious again, returning to the main topic. Today is the practical class that you've all been looking forward to, so show what you've got. Van Mook still looked as clueless as ever, mumbling, Practical class, what are we learning here? Lai Bak Van announced, Today you will team up into pairs and then move to different locations to complete the lesson. The practical goal for today is to hunt down 10 Duidao beasts. Hearing this, Van Muck clenched his fists, secretly delighted. Here it comes, here it comes. This is exactly what I need. Liebach Van didn't stop there, continuing, the Dewey Dow Beast won't show mercy just because you're students, but don't panic too much. This is exactly what I need. Don't stop, keep going. The fun won't hold back just because you guys are students, but don't panic too much. If there's a real threat to my life, I'll intervene. But in other situations, trust in your own strength and that of your teammates. That's the way to survive in this world. Enough of that now. It's time for you to form your teams. Once you're done, let me know. Suddenly, LaFoe stepped closer and called out to his classmate Lu Nai Tiep. I want to invite you to team up with me. Do you agree? Lu Nai Tiep broke out in a cold sweat and cleared his throat. She thought to herself, LaFoe is personally inviting me to team up. What should I do? I really don't want to be on the same team as him at all. After thinking for a moment, she mustered up the courage to respond to her classmate. I know you're really strong, but... Right at that moment, Van Mu took the opportunity to jump in. Chen, will you agree to form a team with me? The team of Li Van Mu and Liu Nai Tai was quickly relocated to Ruins Number 7. With her rich knowledge, Liu Nai Tai quickly recognized the location and explained. This is Ruins No. 7, which used to be an important base for humans in the 5th dimension, but unfortunately it has fallen into such a state of ruin. Because the space monsters are far too powerful beyond what we can anticipate. However, Van Mu didn't seem too concerned and was lost in her own thoughts. But I really wonder why she rejected LaFoe. He's clearly very strong, and if she teamed up with him, this practice would definitely be much easier. Liu Nai Tie expressed, he always acts so arrogant and cold as if the whole world owes him something. I don't like the way he treats people. But still, thanks for helping me out. Van Mu casually replied, what's there to thank? I don't know anyone else to form a team with. The other classmates avoid me like the plague. You're the only one. Just as she finished speaking, a fierce roar from behind startled her, and she quickly turned around, hands ready to defend, mumbling a low-level space beast. They're here. Liu Nai Tai warned, be careful. These monsters usually appear in groups, and there will be a stronger leader among them. I wonder where it's hiding. Before they could understand what was happening, a space beast appeared right behind them, swinging a powerful punch that sent Van Mu flying like a bullet. She crashed straight into the ruins, and Liu Nai Tai stood frozen in shock at the beast's strength, whispering, its destructive power is too strong. It must be the leader of the group of monsters. This space... But just as Liu Nai Tai regained her composure, she jumped into the air to assess the situation and smirked at the large, stupid beast that attacked like you. Its defense must be weak, so you can't be my opponent. Go away! As she spoke, she prepared to attack, but the beast didn't give her a chance to finish her move. It suddenly moved closer and charged at her, causing Liu Nai Tai to break out in a cold sweat, trembling. Could it be? Could it be a common-level space beast? How could that be? The monster opened its mouth to bite her, but just then, Van Mu appeared just in time to take the hit for her. He gently said, wake up, classmate Nai Tai. After all, you're one of the strongest warriors in the class. How can you be scared of just a mid-level beast? Come on, you got this. Van Mu turned to face the beast, speaking in a challenging tone. How long are you going to try to bite my hand? This uniform is really expensive, you know. You have to pay me back, got it? As soon as he finished speaking, he didn't hesitate to kick the beast in the face, sending it crashing to the ground and creating a large dent upon landing. Van Mu couldn't hide his smugness. Is this a mid-level space beast? Not that strong, huh? Turning back, the young man noticed Nai Tai was still standing there. He pretended to be in pain, exclaiming, ouch, my hand hurts so much it might be broken. What should we do now? I really shouldn't have won the Best Actor award, right? Dai Tiep couldn't help but sigh in exasperation. Stop putting on a show in front of me. You don't need to pretend anymore. I know you have a very strong defensive spell, and that's nothing at all. Van Muck's eyes widened in horror. He quickly asked, how do you know about it? Dai Tiep calmly explained, the girl you defeated in the arena before is my friend. Of course I witnessed the entire match between you two. Everyone thinks Tuvu lost due to weak skills, but I know for sure that Tuvu's Heavenly 36 techniques have extremely powerful destructive capabilities. The fact that you could withstand such rapid and powerful attacks from that technique shows you're not an ordinary person. However, Dai Tiep understood the reason you didn't want to reveal your strength in front of the crowd. She added, this world always fears the extraordinary. Special people like you are often ostracized. Van Muck scratched his head, thinking to himself, actually, I don't want anyone to know about my defensive techniques because my background is too ordinary. If I don't say anything, there's nothing remarkable about me, and if anyone finds out, I would definitely be questioned in all sorts of ways and become a guinea pig. But now Dai Tiep knows. So you don't need to hide anymore. Van Muck shrugged and smiled. At first, I just wanted to be a normal friend with someone. But now you know. I don't need to hide anymore. If that's the case, hey, those space monsters. Let's completely let go of ourselves and have a little fun. The space beasts, seeing Van Muck, immediately panicked and jumped up, crying out, help, help, Mom, I want to go home. A moment later, the sun broke through the clouds, bringing light and hope to ruins number 7. Van Mook was still fighting with all his might, kicking straight at the face of a low-level space beast. Finally, after dealing with the group, he stood there panting heavily. Wow, I didn't expect that fighting a few beasts would tire me out so much. Van Mook turned to Dai Tip, asking curiously, Dai Tip, can I ask if there's a way for ordinary people to possess shadow powers like your friend? Dai Tip looked at him seriously and replied, You want shadow powers, that's a high-level secret. She paused for a moment and continued, But since I already know your secret, I don't mind sharing it. However, even if you know, it won't help much. Shadow powers can only be obtained through inheritance. However, there is another way to acquire it. That is to defeat a royal-level space beast and absorb its crystal, but don't dream about that. Royal-level space beasts are not only powerful, but can also control countless lower-level beasts. The higher-ups are concerned that inexperienced mages will recklessly seek death over this. That would affect the overall strategy, so they sealed this secret. It's not publicly disclosed, do you understand? Van Mook sighed heavily. Yes, I understand. Meanwhile, Lee Bak Van, standing at the gathering point, looked around and sighed. It's strange. Why are they so slow this year? Could there be something wrong? But not long after the teleportation gate signaled, which group will be the first to reach the destination? A voice rang out. And soon after, the duo of Van Mook and Dai Tiep appeared waiting there. Lee Bak Van saw them and couldn't contain his surprise, teasing, Wow, what a surprise. Could there be something wrong? But soon after, the teleportation gate signaled which group would be the first to reach the destination. A voice rang out. Voice rang. And not long after, the duo Van Mook and Dai Tiech appeared waiting there. Lee Bak Van saw them and couldn't contain his surprise, teasing, Wow, what a surprise. The two of them are the first group to complete that exercise. How does it feel at Ruins number 7? Is it fun? Van Moo could hardly contain his anger, responding furiously by throwing his shoe right at the teacher's face. That bastard clearly said there were only low-level spatial beasts. How do you explain the sudden appearance of a mid-level beast? Tip almost died there. Did you know that? Lai Basi Van pretended to be clueless eyes fixed on Van Moo. A mid-level spatial beast? Is there really one in there? I don't know anything. Van Moo realized he couldn't pry any information out of him. The teacher then turned back, sneering, Humph, the teachers in this school are all talk. When needed, they're nowhere to be found. Biak Van watched the boy's retreating figure and smiled to himself. Still so fierce. It seems the mid-level beast isn't enough to scare him yet. A few minutes later, the two newcomers walked through the teleportation gate. Hao Vu, with a flattering expression, said, It's amazing to team up with Brother LaFo to take down 10 spatial beasts. Easy as pie. At this rate, our group will definitely come out on top. However, his confidence quickly faded when he saw Van Moo and Nai Tip waiting there not long ago. Van Moo mocked Zoro. You must be Hao Vu, right? Why did you slow down LaFo's progress? He's already in second place, and next time, if LaFo picks a little brother, at least choose someone useful. Don't just pick anyone who's good at sucking up, or you'll end up regretting it. Van Moo provoked LaFo, stepping closer with a cold voice. Excuse me, let me pass. Van Moo didn't bother to stop him, just stepped aside and whistled as if nothing happened. LaFo approached, his eyes sparkling with suspicion, confronting Nai Tiep. How did you complete the exercise so quickly? Could it be that this Van Moo is also somewhat right? Just then, Truong Dai Hung appeared at the teleportation gate drawn in by LaFo's conversation. Nai Tiep silently cursed, Damn it, why are you asking me all of a sudden? She knew LaFo's personality well. Even if she told the truth that all the credit belonged to Van Moo, he wouldn't believe it. Thinking this, she hurriedly looked for a way to dodge. It was just that the attributes of the spatial beasts were just right for me to counter. I dealt with them easily. LaFo nodded in satisfaction, his face relaxing into a smile. So that's it, you're really lucky. A guy from Truong Dai Hung's group chimed in, This Van Moo is really lucky. How did he end up with such a strong Nai Tiep? Now he doesn't have to do anything. He could even top the class in the exercise. Truong Dai Hung didn't think so. He scoffed his tone, mocking, Luck, I don't believe in that so-called luck. It's just a trick to divert everyone's attention. In the blink of an eye, half a year passed. Still at Ruins number 7, a monster was roaring, tearing up the ground in its own pool of green blood. It turned out all of them had been neatly dealt with by Van Moo. He scoffed, his voice dripping with sarcasm. Luck, I don't believe in that so-called luck. It's just a trick to distract everyone. In the blink of an eye, 6 months had passed. Still at Ruins number 7, a monster was roaring, tearing up the ground in its own pool of green blood. It turned out all of them had been neatly dealt with by Van Muck. Lying flat on the ground, you sighed and complained about how dull it was to fight these guys. There's no benefit left to gain, but thankfully the training days at Feng Yun School are almost over. Now is when the exciting part begins, the ranking competition among the Central City 6. You return to school feeling pumped, but deep down you thought to yourself, the training speed over the past 6 months has been way too slow compared to the system. Even though it's been updated for half a year, it's still not done. It's definitely tricking me. Just wait until you wake up. I'll show you what respect means, you mumbled under your breath, unable to help but blame those teachers for being so free, gathering everyone early in the morning. I trained all night yesterday. I don't have the energy to listen to their lectures anymore. Just then, Anne stepped forward and said in a deep voice, "Are all the new students present? If so, I'll get straight to the point. The reason I called you all here today is to announce that in 1 week, the ranking competition among the cities will officially begin. The rules of the competition are as follows. The Tianfeng Guild will drop all equipment down to the Jiam River area. New students from each city will form teams of 5 to 7 people with the mission to eliminate spatial monsters. The total points you earn from defeating them will be tallied. This will be used to evaluate your city's score and compared with other cities for overall ranking during the process. The spatial eyes will monitor you 24/7. All your actions will be broadcast live to all major cities around the world, so don't think about cheating. Don't forget to collect your survival armor from the Mystic Guild. It will save your life in emergencies. Once you receive the armor, you can freely form teams without any restrictions. Finally, I wish you all the best in achieving the scores you desire." After hearing this, Van Moo looked thoughtful and mumbled to himself, "Free survival armor sounds pretty good. But I should still use my dad's warrior gear instead. All right, let's go find Teep to form a team first." When you made that suggestion, Teep awkwardly expressed, "Sorry, but I've already teamed up with someone else." Van Moo jumped in surprise, shouting, "What? How did that happen so fast?" Daitep explained, "My guild arranged it beforehand. I have to team up with Lapu, while Hao Vu has already formed his own team. They think that teaming up with someone from another city, even if we rank high, will cause trouble in improving our city's ranking." Van Moo, hearing this, rubbed his head and interrupted, "All right, just follow your guild's arrangements." Daitep saw you still standing there and called out, "What about you? What are you planning to do?" Van Moo waved his hand to reassure him. "Don't worry, I'll figure something out. Even though you said that deep down you thought who would want to team up with me, I don't know anyone in the class." Suddenly, Truong Dai Hung spoke up in a friendly tone. "Hey there, brother, are you having some trouble? If you're too lonely, come join my team. I'll take care of you." Van Moo was taken aback, his mind racing. That guy is Truong Dai Hung, the heir of the wealthiest family in Kopong City, right? You support him. Van Mook was taken aback, his mind racing. He's Truong Dai Hung, the son of the richest merchant family in the city of Kopong. Isn't that right? I've never talked to him before, so why is he suddenly inviting me to join the team? What time is it now, anyway? What other choices do I have? Still, you manage to keep a calm attitude. I don't care who I team up with as long as there's a team. Truong Dai Hung seemed completely unconcerned, happily saying it was wonderful. Let me take you to meet our team members. The story continued to surprise Van Mook as he realized the group that Truong Dai Hung was talking about, including Lang An, the son of the second richest man in the ancient city of Phong, along with Six Kwang, the son of the third richest man in the ancient city of Phong, and of course Truong Dai Hung is the son of the richest. You look around at the scene with a gloomy expression, secretly cursing this ridiculous team. Should this team even be called a paradise experience for you guys? Am I being foolish? Dai Hung cheerfully declared that the welcoming ceremony was over, and the team's name would be Dai Hung. Now I'll go register with the teacher. Lang An reminded him, Are you feeling okay? There are only 4 of us here, and the teacher said we need at least 5 to form a team. Seeing Dai Hung's startled expression, Van Mook felt panicked. Should I just give up? These rich kids seem a bit off. The next day, Van Mook took the free survival armor to sell. The shopkeeper handed him the money and said, Here are 7 500 space coins. Count it again. After the transaction, Van Mook held the bag of money in his hand and sighed in disappointment. I thought it would be worth a lot, but it's only 7 500 coins. What can I even buy with this little amount? The most basic thing is a tent to avoid rain and wind, and I can't even afford that. Where will I get the money to buy the other necessary items, looking over at Six Kwang, who was paying for a bunch of expensive stuff? Van Mook secretly admired these fools. Just then, Dai Hung pushed a cart full of stuff towards Van Mook and shouted, Van Mook, aren't you going to buy anything to prepare for the competition? Van Mook awkwardly replied, Do you think everyone has money to shop like you, rich kids? Are you really that naive, Truong Dai Hung? So you really don't have any money? You don't even have the essentials like a vehicle to get around or a tent to sleep in. Van Mook calmly responded, What's the big deal? No vehicle I can walk? No tent I can sleep on the ground? That way I get to be one with nature? After hearing this, Truong Dai Hung was moved and rushed over to grab his arm. I didn't expect you to be so unfortunate. Dai Hung, I will never allow that to happen to my teammate. Come on, follow me. Van Mook witnessed this scene. All he could do was curse under his breath. What the hell? After saying that, Dai Hung dragged Van Mook to the shopping counter, slammed his card down on the table, and declared loudly, Shopkeeper, pack everything you have for me. The shopkeeper hurriedly complied and calculated the total damage, saying, "Your total is 143,000 space coins." Truong Dai Hung only uttered two heavy words. "Swipe the card again." "I want to take that vehicle and put this gentleman's name down. By the way, give me one of the best tanks. I need to pick it up next week." Van Muck stood aside, spraying glue, thinking, having money really is nice. I'm just a poor guy. After calculating carefully, the shopkeeper announced, "Thank you very much. The total for this transaction is 12.7 million space coins." Truong Dai Hung still wasn't done. He pointed at the tent behind him. "Pack that expensive tent for my friend, too." The shopkeeper replied, "That one costs 600,000 space coins." Dai Hung straightforwardly declared, "No problem, swipe the card." Van Muck was sweating profusely, secretly trembling. "Am I being considered a kept man? This trip is just too much." Back at the headquarters of the Mystic Guild, the sound of Halvu's giggles echoed. "Hee LaFo, what do you think? Can that Van Muck guy make it through the qualifiers?" The central ranking competition this time, LaFo replied coldly, "I don't know and I don't care." Halvu continued to boast, "This time Naitiep is on our side. No one would want to team up with him." LaFo said, gently probing, "What's your deal with him? Why are you so fixated on him?" He grumbled, "I just can't stand him. He clearly comes from a low background, yet he struts around like he owns the place. Just seeing his face makes my blood boil." Suddenly, a shiny sports car zoomed past, nearly hitting him. He yelled angrily, "Who the hell is driving like an idiot? Get out here and talk!" To his surprise, the luxurious car belonged to Van Mook, who poked his head out, looking quite innocent, while Hao Vu was in shock and LaFo hadn't seen him in a while. Hao Vu snapped, questioning, "What are you doing here at the guild, kid?" Van Muck stepped out of the car, taking his time, and casually replied, "What else could I be doing? I'm here to take on a mission. Anyway, in the upcoming ranking battle, the goal is to hunt space monsters. Whatever we can kill is a win." Hearing this, Hao Vu laughed mockingly. "What did you just say? You think someone like you could even get a team?" Just then, a familiar voice rang out from behind Tu Muk Muk. He turned around, stunned, as if struck by lightning. 3 supercars were parked right behind him, with Truong Dai Hung sitting confidently on the hood of his car. "I've been waiting for you. What do you think of that one? If you don't like it, just buy a new one." Hao Vu looked at the lineup of luxury cars, unable to hide his sarcasm. "And this is what you call a team, a bunch of second-generation rich kids like you. How do you plan to take down space monsters? Are you guys thinking of using money to crush the monsters? Not to mention, you don't even have enough people to pull this off." Van Muck glanced worriedly at Dai Hung, but Dai Hung remained confident, reassuring him, "Don't worry. I've already sorted out the 5th team member. Trust me, they'll be here soon." Before he could finish, the roar of a powerful motorcycle grew louder as it approached. Van Muck frowned and looked over to see a rugged motorcycle speeding toward them, performing an impressive drag maneuver. The bike appeared behind him, and Hao Vu stepped forward, sneering, "Is this your 5th team member? You're killing me here." But LaFo, standing next to him, didn't think so. He looked panicked, his face pale, stammering, No, she's a student from the high school, ranked 2nd in Punghua Lang Tuyet." Dai Hung waved cheerfully. "Hey, Tuyet." "Long time no see," he'd said, using the term senpai. This made Van Muck feel genuinely confused. He was taken aback by Lang An's words. "Why are you here? Are you planning to keep an eye on me forever?" Van Muck couldn't hold back, pointing at Lang Tuyed with wide eyes, questioning, "No way. Don't tell me you two are related. This can't be some family rivalry, can it?" "No way," Lang An exclaimed, fuming. "You think so little of me?" "You underestimate me, don't you? I have a family tree, you want to see it." LaFo stepped closer, speaking to Lang Tuyet. Having someone from another city join the competition could be considered cheating. A person from another city participating in the competition would be accused of cheating. "It will greatly affect the performance of our ancient city. Have you thought this through?" Lang Tuye casually replied, "What's the big deal? I've already transferred to the Ancient City Academy." Hao Vu, still confused, leaned in and asked, "LaFo, who is that woman? She seems really powerful." LaFo explained seriously, "Basically, the overall ranking of Punghua City is much higher than that of Ancient City, and Lang Tuyet here is part of that. She has already reached the level of Black Crystal too. I heard a powerful mystic favored her a few years ago and took her as a disciple, so she learned 2 extremely powerful combat techniques. If we only consider the younger generation, we can say she's a top-tier expert. Don't worry, Tuye, we won't expect you to help us out. All you need to do is join us to make up the numbers and we'll be happy." Lang Tuye chuckled lightly, teasing, "It doesn't matter if you're tough or not, you both look like real men now, huh?" Meanwhile, Lang An still complained, dissatisfied. "Sister, I can't take it anymore. You should move back to Punghua City. I want to be free." Lang Tuye quickly teased, "If I pinch your cheek in a match, will you still dare to speak? When my parents heard I was almost at the bottom of my class, they nearly had a heart attack, so they sent you here. To train a kid like me, huh?" Just then, Van Moo spoke up. "All right, let's chat later. Now let's go meet the teacher and register first." This straightforward attitude caught Lang Tuye's attention. She thought to herself, "This boy is not simple." In the blink of an eye, a week had passed, and the ranking competition among the cities had finally arrived. The announcement from the organizers echoed through the announcement system, "Attention, attention, the Tianvan ship has landed successfully." The moment the gate opened was when the competition began. I hope the new students can represent Ancient City and achieve great results this year. Let's get started. Wishing you all success. That scene was broadcast live on the big screen in the square of Ancient City, and the crowd around began to murmur, "It's starting. It's starting, go for it." This year's ranking for Ancient City depends entirely on you guys. In the small city of Van Thien Van Moo's father, Li Trung, Dan also urged himself to get up to follow his son's journey, smiling to himself. "Go on, kid, open up your future." Back at the competition, Hao Vu was feeling smug driving the vehicle carrying the members of the Mystic Guild. He grinned. "Don't worry with my driving skills, no one can surpass us. All the best spatial beasts will soon be ours," LeFou coldly stated. "According to the map ahead, there's a safe river area. Let's stop there for a while, to let everyone put on their armor and prepare for the battle." At this moment, he pondered, "I wonder how my classmate Fan Mu is doing. I haven't seen him around lately, and I don't even know if he has a team to participate in the competition. That kid really makes people worry." Suddenly, LeFou spoke up. "Did you hear that roar behind us?" "Everyone stay alert," Hao Vu asked casually. "Could it be a spatial beast? Why are we encountering one so early?" At that moment, the roar from the vehicle behind grew closer and closer. He trembled inwardly, thinking, "This can't be happening. I personally directed the changes to this vehicle structure. How could there be a vehicle faster than this? Moreover, we're at this heavenly cloud fortress. No one can drive better than me. Who exactly are they? Do they really think like that?" The car suddenly soared into the air, flying over his head, and he peeked out to see it was the group from the Cloud Moth. The skilled driver was none other than Sister Tuyet from Manhwa City. After a while, the whole team stopped by a picturesque waterfall, and Van Muck pressed, "Hey, have you made a decision yet? So where are we heading next? What's the point of racing ahead when we don't even have a real target?" Lang Tuyet replied nonchalantly, "I don't care where we go. For me, dealing with the spatial beasts here isn't too hard." Lang An looked up and hesitantly suggested, "Can you take us somewhere a bit safer? After all, LeFou and that elite team will definitely score the most points. We don't need to risk it all just to get ambushed." Dai Hung chimed in with enthusiasm. "I hate people who only know how to retreat. We have a master like Tuyet here. Besides, this war chariot is top-notch. If we can't fight, we can always run, so I propose this. Let's choose this spot as our first station." Six Kwong looked a bit confused at that location. His eyes widened, and he exclaimed, "Isn't this the territory of those dwarf witch monsters? Are you kidding me?" Van Muck, still bewildered as usual, asked, "What are dwarf witch monsters?" Lang An quickly popped his head up, frowning, as he explained, "You don't even know that. They're the most troublesome spatial monsters in this river region." Van Muck innocently asked, "Are they really that powerful?" Lang Tuyet explained, "In terms of individual strategy, they're not strong at all. They're even considered weak. The issue here is that dwarf witches are creatures that exist in large groups. Their intelligence is more developed than other beasts, and they especially hate humans. Once a fight breaks out, dwarf witches usually gather in large numbers to ambush their prey, and if humans get surrounded by them, then we're definitely done for." Hearing this, Van Muck gulped nervously, still seeming quite optimistic and not ready to give up just yet. At that moment, Truong Dai Hung further explained why he suggested that spot. "Almost everyone from Team 5 participating in the competition knows this, so no one wants to mess with them. In other words, if we go there and manage to defeat them, the points will be ours since there won't be any competitors." Six Kwong looked up and shouted, "Dai Hung, have you lost your mind? If our team goes there, we'll be toast before we even score any points." Lang An jumped in, adding, "Can you stop being like that? To earn points, we need to be alive first." Truong Dai Hung reassured him, "What are you worried about? Don't we have our big sister Lang Tuyet here?" Lang An jumped in, adding, "Could you please stop that? If you want to score points, you need to stay alive to use them." Truong Dai Hung reassured him, "What are you worried about? Our big sister Lang Tuyet is here, right? Everything will be all right." Hearing this, Van turned to Tuyet and asked, "What do you think?" Lang Tuyet, carefree, was sucking on a lollipop and replied straightforwardly, "You guys decide among yourselves. I'm fine with whatever." After hearing that, Van quickly decided, "In that case, I support Truong Dai Hung." Truong Dai Hung knew that his opinion had both supporters and opponents. As for Lang Tuyet, he just stayed silent, choosing to be neutral. He didn't hesitate any longer and decided right away, "All right then." The three of them agreed, so let's go with that decision. "Let's go, my brothers." Lang An, hearing this, jumped over to Lang Tuyet, his face scrunched up, crying, "Sister, please let me down now. I don't want to go there and die. I'm not going." Truong Dai Hung pulled him back, his face serious. "Sit still. If you get off the vehicle now, you'll fall asleep even sooner. A little while later, the team's vehicle had moved to the outskirts of the territory of the Dwarf Witch. Lang Tuyet spoke up. Just a few hundred meters more and we might encounter them. Everyone get out of the vehicle and put on your armor. Prepare for battle. Truong Dai Hung was the first to finish dressing, carrying his weapon with great authority, asking everyone, is everyone ready? The outfit he wore was the Silver Destruction weapon armor, a powerful and imposing set. Lang An wore the death-seizing silver armor, the 10 self-transforming wheel slash. We're done, the two of them said. Six Kwong is ready too. His gear was the silver hunter weapon, the deadly blade. Six Kwong helplessly asked Lang An, are you really that scared of dying? Why is your gear all about defense? Lang Tuyet was lighter with her battle armor. I'm ready on my side too. Truong Dai Hung looked around, pressing for answers. Where's Teo Muk? Are you done yet? But when he looked at the outfit Van Muk was wearing, Truong Dai Hung's eyes widened in disbelief, exclaiming, oh my God, how do you have that? Van Muk was confused, not understanding why. Truong Dai Hung reacted strongly, realizing Van Muk didn't understand, quickly explaining, what you're wearing is the warrior gear of the War God Temple. This armor is priceless. You can't buy it even with money. I once offered a high reward but couldn't find a single set. Let me touch it a bit. Oh my God, this feeling is amazing. Van Muk was sweating, thinking to himself, is this outfit really special? I don't even know how my dad got it. Suddenly, a noise echoed from afar. Along with the shadow of something moving, it alerted Lang Tuye. She quickly turned around, saying, shh, be quiet. Something is coming. Everyone split up and find a hiding spot. Van Muk and Truong Dai Hung immediately complied, darting off in different directions. A few seconds later, they had hidden away. Lang Tuye contacted them via the intercom, asking, Dai Hung, where are you? Report. Truong Dai Hung used his sniper scope to survey the surroundings, replying, I've spotted the target. It's two dwarf monsters, probably patrol guards, Lang Tuye quickly commanded. Check if there are any other spatial monsters around. Dai Hung responded immediately, reporting, I've checked and there are no other target traces around. Hearing this, Lang Tuyet relayed the order to Truong Dai Hung. Van Muk, the two of you prepare to act, Van Muk whispered into the intercom. Understood, we're ready over here. The dwarf monster suddenly got distracted by something and looked down, staring intently. It turned out to be the lollipop Lang Tuyet was sucking on. The monster had never seen anything like it before. Rushing over to pick it up, its eyes glued to it. Dai Hung couldn't help but chuckle, smirking. Bingo, congratulations, you've won, saying that he pulled the trigger and shot the dwarf monster's head off. The remaining child jumped in shock, ready to run back and report. But Van Muk suddenly appeared behind, slicing through with a fierce attack that decapitated it in one blow. His eyes glinted coldly as he whispered into the radio, confirming a successful hit on the target, while discussions echoed in the monitoring room of the organizers. Wow, the Black Emperor team is really doing well this year. In just half a day, they've already made it to the top 4 inches, someone remarked softly. But they're still not as good as the Snow White team. Their team this year is full of top seeds. They were practically outside the top 50 in previous years, but now they're comfortably sitting in the top 10. That's a real leap forward. Another person commented, yeah, look at the Feng team. They used to be stuck around the top 130, and now they're climbing straight to the top 70. That's pretty impressive. I heard this year the Feng team has a superstar named La Fo. This achievement is all thanks to him, right? Li Bak Van, sitting on the judging panel, muttered, La Fo don't joke around. Relying on him alone, how could the Feng team score enough points to reach this ranking? Back with Van Muk Lang, An was running for his life, screaming desperately as the horde of little monsters closed in. Where are you, Teo Muk? Hurry up or I'm done for. Hearing this, Van Muk leaped out from the bushes and whispered, What's all the fuss about? If you want to be quick, you have to take your time. With that, he kicked straight at the head of a pursuing little monster, decisively taking it down, then waved his hand, taunting the others to come at him all at once. I'm in a hurry. I don't have time to play with you guys this time. Let's see how you handle my fire blade. The monsters, relying on their numbers, intended to overwhelm him, but each aggressive frontliner was immediately sliced in half by Van Muk, who even managed to collect a few more heads along the way. Feeling that the attacks were too slow, Van Muk decided to activate his skill. The crazy blade slashed his blade flowing like water, cutting down every little monster in his path. After dealing with the horde, he landed on the ground in a cool pose, panting after the exhausting battle, only to find 2 little monsters still alive. They sprang up, ready to attack him for revenge, but Van Muk didn't care, looking at them like they were just walking corpses. At that moment, 2 powerful energy beams shot through their heads, taking them out in an instant. Lang Tuye, standing above, reminded him, Feel free to unleash your strength. Those little monsters don't know what's coming. We'll handle them. Suddenly, one of the surviving monsters sprang up, trying to escape. Lang Tuye quickly shouted into the radio, Van Muk, don't let it get away. It wants to return and report to its tribe. At that moment, Six Kwong stepped forward confidently. No need to rush, let it be. Just let me finish. He skillfully spun the dagger in his hand and activated his skill. Death Strike. He launched it at the little monster, and the attack split the creature in half instantly. Six Kwong joyfully exclaimed, trying to run no chance. After observing, Lang Tuyet spoke up, praising the team. "Great job, everyone. Our coordination has improved a lot. I roughly calculated that we've taken down about 30 to 40 little monsters in all 4 waves, so we've earned quite a few points." Hearing this, Truong Dai Hung turned around and urged, "Then let's go for the 5th wave while it's hot, and you go lure some more little monsters over here." Lang On, hearing this, opened his mouth to protest. "Stop joking around, I was almost in their stomachs. I'm not going anymore." Dai Hung didn't miss the chance, teleporting over with a mischievous grin. "If you're not going, then let Tu Muk go instead. You stay here and take the lead in close combat for him, okay?" Lang On felt a wave of relief wash over him. He shouted loudly in his head, quickly calculating the risks, then called out to Dai Hung, "Wait, I'm not taking the lead. I'd rather go lure them. It's safer." Dai Hung walked over to Lang Tuye and asked, "Sister Tuye, why are you suddenly in a daze?" Lang Tuye thought for a moment, and then wondered if that kid from the cloud was really him. Had he really awakened his powers in less than a year? Dai Hung confirmed, "That's right. I heard he only started sensing his powers about a week before the annual test began." Lang Tuye continued, her tone serious. "So he's only been aware for half a year. To achieve such strength in just half a year?" "There's definitely something unusual about him," Dai Hung replied. "Of course, I know he's not like an ordinary person. It's because of that uniqueness that I invited him to join Team 5. Just as he said that, Lang On had lured the little monster back, shouting loudly and crying, running with his butt wiggling. "Everyone get ready to run." The group turned faces pale and sprayed glue everywhere. It was a group of little wizard leaders. All members quickly retreated, and the team ran until nightfall to escape the territory of the little wizard monster. "Stop, let's rest by the fire." Truong Dai Hung opened the summary board and smiled with delight. "Wow, we really had a big harvest today. Let's see. Tu Muk Muk took down a total of 230 spatial monsters, accounting for 43% of the team's contribution. In second place is Chi Tu-Ye, who eliminated 92 monsters, making up 35% of the contribution. I only arranged for her to support the team, yet she managed to kill so many. No wonder she's a Black Crystal Master." Hearing this, Van Muk looked up and expressed his gratitude. "Without your support, there's no way I could have killed that many. If Chi Tu-Ye wanted to be first, it would be as easy as flipping her hand." Lang Tu-Ye said nothing, but she silently assessed that he was saying these things to give her credit. It was clear from his actions that he was trying to hide himself. The atmosphere calmed down, and Truong Dai Hung suddenly turned to look at Antu, worried, and blurted out, "Why do you look so down like a chicken with its feathers ruffled?" At that moment, Lang On could only lower his head, his hands clasped together like a child being scolded, tears streaming down his face. "I've been trying all day, yet I only managed to take down 5. I only got 5 points. Am I really that useless?" Seeing him so sad, Lucy quickly stepped forward to pat him on the shoulder, her tone sincere. "What's there to be embarrassed about? You were busy luring the monsters, so how could you have the strength to kill them too? I'm still in the team, and I only have a few points more than you." Even Lang Tu-Ye couldn't bear to stay silent. She spoke up decisively, but with kindness. All right. At your age, you shouldn't be whining all the time. I can transfer some points to you." Hearing this, Van Muk was taken aback. "Wait, you can transfer earned points to someone else." Without letting the thought linger, he immediately said, "Then I'll transfer 15 points to Tu Kwong." "Huh." Tu Kwong was startled, his eyes wide in surprise. "Is that really okay? Those are the points you worked hard to earn." Van Muk grinned, his face mischievous yet enthusiastic. "What's wrong with that? We're a team. Of course we should advance together and retreat together." Tu Kwong laughed joyfully, his voice full of happiness. "Thanks, Tu Muk Muk. If you were a girl, I'd definitely fall for you." Everything seemed to settle down. "Of course we move forward together and retreat together." Six Kwong laughed, clearly delighted. "Thanks, Tu Muk Muk. If you were a girl, I'd definitely fall for you. Looks like everything is going smoothly." Snow gently reminds the group that it's getting late. Quickly share the loot and head back to the tent to rest. The battle is still long. After returning to the tent, Van Muk sits down and pulls out his loot, admiring it while whispering, "Is this the power crystal of the Great Bear? Speaking of which, it looks pretty nice and can even glow." Suddenly he remembers Lang Tu-Ye's warning from this morning about the crystals taken from space beasts. They only work for 12 hours, so make sure to use them all within that time. Considering carefully, Van Muk thinks to himself that he originally planned to return to Tien Van Bao to activate the pulse for safety, but the current situation doesn't allow for waiting. After a moment of contemplation, he opens the system, his hands trembling, mumbling to reassure himself. "Everything has a first time, but why am I so nervous? Which pulse should I activate first?" Each one has its own effect, making it hard to choose. Just then, the advice from Lee Bak Van pops into his mind, suggesting he should activate the heavenly human pulse first. Although it's the only pulse on the head, its effect is the greatest if successful. It not only develops cognitive abilities, but also enhances nerve response and the sensitivity of the senses. Without further hesitation, Van Muck raises the crystal. With a determined gaze, he decides to activate the heavenly human pulse first. Right after his decisive shout, he immediately crushes the crystal to absorb the power, then places his hands in front of his chest to regulate the energy, condensing a beam of light into a small sphere. It flies straight into his forehead, and the system quickly displays the pulse activation progress 15%. Instantly, Van Muck's legs tremble. His body loses balance, nearly toppling over, and it takes a moment for him to regain his footing. This feeling is anything but pleasant. Gritting his teeth, Van Muck continues to use the remaining 5 crystals one by one. Over an hour passes, and he tiredly opens the check panel. Upon seeing the results, he lets out a sigh. Is this really it? Only 70%? Didn't the teacher say that those with poor aptitude only need to use 2 power crystals to activate a pulse? Could it be that my aptitude is worse than the worst of the worst? Just then, while Van Muck is fumbling with the pile of power crystals, a familiar voice rings in his head. Congratulations, host, the system has successfully updated. He is stunned for a few seconds in surprise. Then, as if hitting the jackpot, he immediately jumps up like a child, exclaiming, "My treasure, you're back! Aha, where's the system?" It quickly activates the shadow mode, and in an instant, the mysterious figure appears. Van Muck squints, evaluating with an excited tone. "What's this? You're also dressed like a warrior. Just like me. This is awesome." Before he can fully enjoy the excitement, the system fires off a new wave of information as if to bombard his brain. In the current dimension, the power of the shadow is reflected equally with the host. Because the heavenly human pulse of the host is about to be activated, the shadow's cognitive abilities have improved. The host can now transfer his consciousness to control the shadow's body. The surprising information leaves Van Muck momentarily stunned, but once he processes it, he bursts into joyful laughter, thinking, "I have to try this." Without any further hesitation, he immediately focuses his mind, directing his consciousness to leave his real body, which feels unsteady, as if his soul has been pulled away and he collapses to the ground. At the same time, his consciousness enters the shadow's body and the perspective shifts, causing Van Muck to exclaim in awe, "Is that really me? This is insane. I'm actually in the body of the shadow? This power is truly amazing. It's been worth the wait for the update over the past 6 months. It would be such a waste if I went to sleep at night. Tonight will be the most fun hunting night ever, but I can't let the Great Bears group find out." Before long, the sky begins to brighten as the sun rises above the mountains and Van Muck drags his exhausted body back to the tent. He dropped the bag onto the sofa, panting like someone on the verge of exhaustion, finally having absorbed everything. "Last night I had to battle a monster while also returning to my body's core, and I was nearly overwhelmed. Luckily, the number of the crystals I collected was enough for a successful core activation. The celestial human vein also yielded some results," he said, while pulling out a strange object. Turning it over in his hands with a confused look, he wondered what the heck this was. It seemed like the group of dwarf wizards I defeated yesterday was escorting it somewhere. It must be really important to them. Just then, a voice called out from outside. "Little Moo Moo, are you up yet? Hurry and get ready." "It's time to set off," Da Hung shouted. Hearing this, Van Muck put away the strange object. He decided to set that aside for later investigation. Outside, the 6 warriors were curiously asking his close brother how he absorbed the power crystals yesterday. Lang-On shrugged and replied, "It was okay, I used 4 crystals to activate 80% of the celestial human vein." He sighed in frustration. "Well, that's still pretty good. I used 5 crystals and only activated 75% of the foot vein. Looks like my aptitude is even worse than yours." Just then, they saw Van Muck stepping out of the tent, and they all rushed to ask him, "What about you? How much of the mysterious veins did you activate last night? With your aptitude, it should be pretty good, right?" Van Muck, feeling bored, casually replied, "I can't remember, but I think I only managed to activate 70% with 5 crystals." The celestial human vein? The 2 of them couldn't believe their ears and immediately reacted in unison. 70%? Are you kidding? That's even lower than us." When Van Muck nodded in confirmation, both of them felt like they had struck gold. Laughing heartily under the vast sky of the plateau, aha, could it be that our aptitude is actually top tier? Not just a bunch of useless trash. Just then, Lang Tuyet also stepped out looking battle-ready. She reminded everyone not to joke around anymore and to get moving. "So where are you guys deciding to go?" "Where to next?" Truong Dai Hung immediately replied with determination. "Sister Tuyet, why even ask? Of course we're going back to find that group of dwarf wizard leaders. For revenge." Time passed over the next 4 days, and their team made rapid progress. Each member began to work together more harmoniously, coordinating as if they had trained for a long time. They even managed to team up and defeat a high-level dwarf wizard, something no one had dared to dream of before. Van Mook took advantage of the night to secretly use his shadow body to grind. Thanks to that, his power was increasing at an almost unbelievable rate. By now, he had activated 4 mysterious veins, and his overall strength had nearly doubled compared to the first day. The fierce battles of Van Mook were recorded by the spatial eyes, broadcasting every moment live to all the cities around the world. His extraordinary performance quickly caught the attention of a mysterious old man who sat in a dark room with a sharp gaze lightly spinning a ring on his finger. The black ring seemed to be calculating something. His face couldn't hide a dangerous look as the door creaked open and a subordinate stepped in asking, "Sir, you called for me. Do you have any instructions?" The old man glanced at him and slowly spoke as if pondering, "This year, Feng City seems to have a dark horse. You know who I'm talking about, right?" The man immediately replied, his tone dismissive. "Yes, I know. His name is Van Mook, a small-time character from a poor background, nothing special." Before he could finish, the old man interrupted coldly. "Small-time, he's doing what many top talents would look up to." The subordinate nodded in agreement, as if he had just remembered something important. Yes, that kid and his team seemed to be scoring the most points for the Feng City. They even surpassed the highly anticipated Lapo team. The old man's gaze grew deeper and colder than ever as he focused on Van Mook and Lapo. They truly were 2 promising seeds. It's just a pity that I can't utilize the talents of Feng City, so they could very well pose a significant threat to our plans in the future. The guy glanced at the old man, probing for his thoughts, wanting to launch an attack. The old man smirked, his voice soft, yet sharp as a knife. "Isn't it common for a few newcomers to die in the city ranking competitions every year?" Without needing to say more, the guy understood his meaning, bowing respectfully. "Yes, I understand, sir. I'll arrange it right away." The atmosphere in Van Mook's camp turned contemplative. He turned to Dai Hung, his voice filled with doubt. "Are you sure we should raid this tribe next? There are over 10 dwarf sorcerers who can use magic along with a skilled elder who can tame wild beasts there." Dai Hung nodded firmly without hesitation. "Don't worry, I've investigated thoroughly. The beings you just mentioned are out hunting and aren't present in the tribe anymore." Van Mook scratched his chin, contemplating, his eyes glinting with calculation. He knew very well that dwarf sorcerers always brought in more points than ordinary dwarf monsters. This was a rare opportunity. Just then, Lang Tuye spoke up, her tone sharp yet encouraging. "I think Dai Hung's suggestion to ambush there is a good one." Seeing the 3 boys standing there, she frowned and explained, "You guys have matured a lot over the past 4 days. It's time to test yourselves against tougher spatial beasts. Besides, I also need the black crystals from them." Van Mook thought quietly, a sense of gratitude creeping in. That's right. Sister Tuye had supported the whole team. She had significantly boosted their strength over the past few days, while it seemed she hadn't gained anything until now. He tightened his grip and stepped forward, declaring loudly, "Let's go, Dai Hung. It's time to face stronger monsters." Lang Tuye tilted her head slightly, continuing as if it were an unspoken command, "And 2, handling them outside is still up to you." Time flowed slowly like dripping water. The sky had darkened completely, yet Lang An had not returned. A sense of unease crept in, and Van Mook glanced at Truong Dai Hung, his voice dropping. "I can't shake this feeling. And 2 won't run into any trouble, right?" Dai Hung patted his shoulder reassuringly, his tone full of confidence. "Don't worry too much. He'll be back soon. In the past few days, he has successfully unlocked the potential of his right hand. In terms of attack power, he's no less than me." Just as he finished speaking, a sound tore through the air. Lang An had just managed to rush back, followed by a deafening roar. A gigantic dwarf monster charged at them with terrifying speed, swinging its claws to attack. Lang An immediately dodged and countered with a lightning-fast slash. The monster's massive claw was severed and fell to the ground with a thud. Despite that, he didn't dare take more risks and quickly dashed back towards the formation. "Yelling like that, do you think I'm easy to swallow? Don't even dream about it. Everyone get ready to fight. We're right at the door." Van Mook jumped up, brushing off the dust from his clothes, laughing, "Oh, I thought you got lost somewhere. Let's get back to business." Before they could arrange their formation, a voice emerged from behind, mocking and chilling. "Oh, is this the Elite Team 5 that everyone has been talking about? Isn't that right? Why do I see nothing special about them, or to put it bluntly, they're as weak as weeds? Your scores this time. Your scores this time. I'm so embarrassed, guys. Be careful out there." They just soared over Van's head, laughing as if they were playing a game of cat and mouse, and one of them landed right in front of Lang An, smirking, "Tough luck, huh, you fool? But it seems like your efforts are in vain." Just as the taunt ended, the 2 of them shot through the air like lightning, zipping past Lang An and charging towards the group of short monsters, the little witches who had just been lured in. Before anyone could comprehend what was happening, the leader was swiftly dealt with, limbs severed in less than a blink of an eye after that strike. They began to slice through the enemies, as if they were just strolling through a park, swinging their swords lightly, while each monster fell one by one, and Van stood from afar, heart pounding slowly. Half in disbelief, he exclaimed, "They can kill the little witches in an instant! Where did those two come from?" Hearing this, Lang Tuyet immediately explained that they were members. The elite from another city's team, they must have come here on purpose to steal our points. Our ranking must be too eye-catching for them to have come here so carefully. After clearing the battlefield, the two of them turned back and threw a condescending glance at Van's group. "Oh, you guys are more compliant than I thought. And thanks for the free points." Truong Dai-hung fell silent for a few seconds before turning around to walk away. Let's go, Luke," he exclaimed, wide-eyed and dumbfounded. "Are we just going to walk away like this?" Dai-hung didn't even look back. All the points had been snatched away, and if he didn't leave, he would just be here chatting lightly with them. Track Luke's face turned red with anger, but what could he do? "We need to teach them a proper lesson." Dai-hung maintained his calm tone. Enough. "What do we gain from beating them?" The guy in the white shirt scoffed clearly, still not satisfied with the teasing. He glanced at Van's group and taunted, "Look at that!" "They're intentionally ignoring us," the other one sneered, "so brazenly stealing points. They can only scurry away in despair. Indeed, a bunch of cowards who only know how to hide and grab points." Both of them shouted in unison, trying to provoke. "I know you're all very dissatisfied. If you're not satisfied, come back here like a man and teach us a lesson." Before he could finish his sentence, he blinked behind Dai-hung, trying to play a sneak attack. But unexpectedly, before he could make a move, he received a devastating kick to his poor neck, the sound cracking loudly, and the owner of it spat out a stream of blood. Literally, his eyes rolled back, collapsing to the ground, while the remaining guy in the white shirt stood frozen like a statue, shouting in panic, "What just happened?" Truong Dai-hung smirked, his voice as cold as ice. "Let me warn you two, since you've taken the points, crawl away now. Otherwise, don't ask why the sea is saltier than tears." At that moment, a shrill sound tore through the air, accompanied by a bright flare exploding in the sky, causing everyone to jump and look up, wondering what was happening. Sweat began to bead on Truong Dai-hung's forehead as he swallowed hard, speaking sternly. "That's a signal flare. We have no time. We need to run." Before anyone could grasp what losing everything meant, the ground trembled and a giant figure descended from the realm of death. Right behind Dai-hung, a creature with a human body and a wolf's head. Its eyes glowed with a fierce aura stalking its prey, and it immediately attacked the blond guy, ripping his shirt and causing him to collapse. Even if he escaped death, he was just a shell of a man. With every cough, a stream of blood spewed out. Van trembled slightly and whispered to Lang Tuyet, "What kind of monster is that?" Meanwhile, the creature growled and gently clawed at the remaining half of the guy. The white-shirted guy, unable to bear the sight of his brother being torn apart, charged in like a bullet. "Hey, you can't do that!" Truong Dai-hung saw him leap past him recklessly. He shouted loudly, "You idiot! Come back here, don't go over there!" But it was too late. A hand larger than him swept across, slamming him down to the ground like sticking a stamp on his survival armor, which seemed more for show than defense, and the result was just as expected. He was off on the road with his buddy. The ghostly creature appeared at this moment. Slowly turning his head to look at the big guy as if evaluating the next dish, he froze, sweat pouring down like a broken dam. Even with the fancy armor he invested in, he wasn't sure it could withstand a second hit. Lang-an looked around, his gaze still uneasy, subtly asking if he needed to save those two. Seeing Lang-an still hesitating, Van Muk shouted decisively, "Don't worry so much, just run, they won't survive this." In another corner, Truong Dai-hung had drawn his gun, his eyes sharp as if anticipating the impending danger. He silently growled in his mind, "Damn it, my arm position is ruined. If I get hit again, I'm done for. There's no time to think." Dai-hung retreated with his team while firing continuously at the ghostly creature in front of him. But danger unexpectedly surged from another direction. Another ghostly creature jumped out, blocking their path. On its shoulder was a short witch, her eyes disdainful, her laughter sharp as a razor. Hey, where do you think you're going? The situation is getting more perilous." Van Muk immediately reacted, lowering himself to dodge a swipe, and shouted, "This is bad, there's another one ahead." Dai-hung quickly turned around, warning, "That one is the elder of this tribe. Don't stop, push through, and retreat to the war chariot." Without needing more words, the team immediately changed direction, heading down another path to circle back to the vehicle. As they ran, Van Muk couldn't help but ask, his voice filled with doubt, "Where did all these ghostly creatures come from? They never gathered together like this." Truong Dai-hung gritted his teeth, concluding, "We must have fallen into the elder's trap." "That short witch." Van Muk couldn't help but ask again. "What do you mean?" Truong Dai-hung replied, his eyes still fixed on the front line. The signal shot earlier was how they communicate with each other. "We've walked into their encirclement." Lang Tuyet quickly added her analysis, her voice as cold as ice. "This short witch elder is very cunning. It seems he has received news from the other tribes. They've been slaughtered by us these past few days, so they set this plan." Before they could gather their thoughts, another ghostly creature suddenly appeared, cutting off their retreat. Van Muck turned his head, asking urgently, "What do we do now?" Without time to think, the team was surrounded tightly by the short witch leaders. In the midst of a horde of low-level monsters, Lang On panicked, almost crying, "Oh no, what do we do? I don't want to die this early." The situation was as tense as a drawn bowstring. The voice of the short witch elder echoed, "These past few days you've harmed many of our kind, haven't you? Today, right here, I will make you pay your blood debt with blood." Van Muck smirked, throwing a sharp retort. "Oh, this ugly thing can talk like an adult, huh? It's the first time I've met something as weird as you." The short witch was startled. "Ugly foolish I am, the elder commanding a tribe of short witches. I am a space monster intelligent. Do you hear me?" Six stepped forward without hesitation, his voice icy. "So you're a wretched elder, this back and forth isn't over yet." The elder roared in anger. "You little brats better not go too far. You're in my hands now and you dare to look down on me. You want to die, don't you?" It swung its whip, commanding, "Quickly kill them." The ghostly creatures, tamed, immediately obeyed, growling as they charged forward, the stench of rotting flesh filling the air, their sharp teeth glistening with drool. They were completely surrounded, and the team had no way out. "Tear them apart, I want two ghostly creatures." At this moment, they began to charge, their mouths wide open, filled with sharp teeth, ready to devour everyone. Just then, Van Muck summoned the system and said, "Sister Tuye, you're the only one here who can break through. Wait a moment, you need to rush to the vehicle and then drive back to pick us up. We'll hold out until you return." Hearing this, Lang Tuye anxiously asked, "Are you sure you can hold out until I get back?" Van Muck smiled lightly, replying, "To be honest, I'm not sure." He paused for a moment, then reached into the system to find something, and soon after Van Muck pulled something out. A long, glowing sword in hand, he leaped into battle, leaving behind the best advice, "You should hurry back." Seeing him charge forward, she followed suit. Lang Tuye swiftly pinned down the dwarf witch, using the force to accelerate herself. Meanwhile, Van Muck was left alone, breaking through the encirclement, his sword slicing through the enemy with ease. They were relentless, causing damage. A dwarf witch charged at Van Muck, but his sword struck hard against its chest in no time. Lang Tuye was on her way out seeking help when a dwarf wizard spotted her and blocked her path. She quickly left it behind. She was sweating, whispering to herself, "I have to hold on until I come back." At that moment, a ghostly beast suddenly appeared, growling as it lunged at her. Caught off guard, Lang Tuye turned just in time to see it closing in. Simultaneously, a loud crash echoed as screws and tools flew chaotically through the air. Luckily, her younger brother Lang On quickly shielded her. Successfully blocking a blow for Lang Tuye, he saw his own blood spill. Worried, she checked on him, but Lang On gritted his teeth and said, "Don't look back. Keep running. If you can't drive the tank back, none of us will survive." He gathered his inner strength and shouted, "Come here, you dog! Your opponent is me." With that, Lang On charged at the ghostly beast. Suddenly attacked, it momentarily recoiled, but its claws quickly lunged toward Lang An, who certainly wouldn't stand still for it. The beast pleased faced Lang On, who swiftly raised his two swords before him. He then crossed them, skillfully spinning them in a circular motion. When he sensed the moment was right, Lang On thrust the sword forward. This technique was called 10 Deaths Revolving Slash, and finally he succeeded in killing the beast. The fierce beast was no more. Lang On's face showed fatigue from blood loss. Meanwhile, the two dwarf witches glared at him, weapons in hand, continuing their assault while Luke Kwong was ready. He stood tall, watching the enemy's charge. Prepared and with decent abilities, Luke Kwong easily cut down the two dwarf witches in no time, then sighed in relief. Unbeknownst to him, another one was sneaking up from behind. As it leaped to attack, a loud sound erupted, causing the dwarf witch to explode. This sudden noise startled Luke Kwong, who turned back bewildered by the scene before him. Fortunately, Dai Hung had just managed to shoot accurately. "Chow, be careful behind you!" On the other side, the dwarf witches were continuously attacked, their limbs flying everywhere. Van Muck frowned, realizing he hadn't had a moment to rest. His hands moved swiftly, taking down any dwarf witch that dared approach. Van Muck's attacks grew faster, and the number of slain dwarf witches was significant, yet he remained vigilant, thinking to himself. Reinforcements for the dwarf witches were increasing. At this rate, we can't hold out until Tuye returns. Just then, a piercing scream rang out. This broke his train of thought, and Van Muck was startled. He turned to see the ghostly beast, unsure how it had managed to do so. It was lifting Lang On upside down. Dai Hung was continuously firing at its remaining arm, but being hung like this, Lang On's head spun, crying out like a pig being slaughtered. The ghostly beast then threw Lang On far away. The force was so strong that his head throbbed. Seeing this, both Dai Hung and Van Muck were shocked, shouting, "Antu!" Van Muck gritted his teeth, calculating that it was bad. They couldn't hold on any longer and had to come up with a plan. He quickly moved behind the dwarf witch, still contemplating the threat posed by those ghostly beasts. The one controlling the ghostly beasts was the elder dwarf witch who stood among a group of soldiers. To take it down, they had to get past these creatures. right after that. Van Mook was deep in thought as he leapt towards them, determined that if they were to catch the bandits, they had to take down the leader first. His eyes shone brightly, and with both hands gripping his sword tightly, he fiercely swung it at them. He never expected that he would aim straight for the elder. For a moment, the elder was stunned, and just as Van Mook was about to strike, the elder finally snapped out of his daze. He immediately turned and ran away. Luckily, Van Mook's sword only managed to graze the elder's cloak, tearing it apart. Van Mook, feeling regret, shouted out, "Oh no!" The elder, frustrated, yelled loudly, "You foolish ghost!" Suddenly, the two dogs were startled and looked over at the short wizard, who was annoyed, and shouted, "Why aren't you coming to save me?" At the same time, Dai Hung began to provoke them, asking why they had stopped. But the How ghosts were not easily fooled. They quickly unleashed their claws, sending a surge of internal energy. Van Mook, glancing quickly, managed to dodge the attack just in time. Fortunately, with his quick reflexes, Van Mook leaped back, creating distance between himself and them. He dodged the attack while feeling annoyed at the sight of the short wizard lying on the ground. Just barely, the How ghosts did not stop there. Now in their eyes, he was the #1 target. Therefore, the whole pack charged at Van Mook, who silently calculated that it was 1 against 3 and had no choice but to use all his illusionary power desperately. Immediately, he shouted loudly, channeling his internal energy. Van Mook's eyes turned red and a massive force erupted from his body. A stream of red energy shot out continuously at that moment. The technique he used was the chaotic dance of the blade. Van Mook truly wanted to go all out against these 3 How ghosts. Dai Hung looked at him sweating, wondering if one person could really control 3 How ghosts. He also charged in to assist, and Dai Hung shot at a nearby How ghost. Chat 6, confused, asked, "Did you see that?" "Do you see 06?" he said, looking at Van Mook's current state. "Could it be that he has entered the divine realm like the old folks say?" Van Mook's eyes were now completely red, and his smile had turned colder. Dai Hung chuckled lightly and asked, "Are you saying he has entered the divine realm? The legendary war god, huh?" Looking at Van Mook at that moment. Dai Hung couldn't help but wonder what secret this kid Van Mook had inside him. Even the short wizard elder who was watching looked bewildered. What was happening with this person? In just a moment, Van Mook had dealt with 3 How ghosts. He stood right in front of the elder, and his smile sent chills down everyone's spine. His subordinates were continuously knocked away, and the elder was now so frightened that his whole body trembled. The short wizard elder turned around annoyed and shouted, "What now?" At that moment, a familiar voice rang out, "You bastards, taste this!" As soon as that voice finished, a large gun immediately fired continuously at the group of short wizards. The speed of this weapon was so fast that they couldn't react in time. The whole group could only stand there shouting in panic. Dai Hung was supporting Lang An, and with Luke Kwong in hand, he couldn't help but cheer, "Dai Hung, look, Sister Tuyet is back." Lang Tuyet smiled brightly as she drove by, shouting, "Everyone, the car is here." Dai Hung joyfully shouted, "Little Mook, hurry up and get in the car." But at that moment, Van Mook was crazily fighting, seemingly not hearing their words. Dai Hung suddenly realized and shouted loudly, "Hey, I think his condition isn't normal." The scene shifted to the Mystic Guild, where everyone was watching something on the system's scanner. One of them, startled, reported, "President, a new person has entered the realm of the war god." The other added, "Has the image been blocked yet?" The other immediately replied, "All messages and image data have been blocked and locked." The president was pleased and said, "Great, quickly report this to the saint," returning to Van Mook's side. At that moment, he was yawning widely, feeling incredibly refreshed. Van Mook sighed. "Thank goodness I got out. My body feels so exhausted after being tortured like that." "So are you calming down now?" "Just now. You don't even realize how ruthless you've been." I was confused, not knowing what was happening, but suddenly I felt a surge of power fill my body as I extended my hands to observe. The desire to fight was uncontrollable, and right after that, the big guy chopped your shoulder. "Let's not mention this anymore, brother." The system continued, even though this time, everyone's lives were hanging by a thread, but the harvest was quite good. Besides the 10 regular crystals, there were also 2 black crystals. I focused on scanning. "Just saying this time. Our lives can be said to have been saved by the little one, I think. Let's give everything we got this time to the little one." Hearing this, I was a bit startled, looking around at everyone asking, "You want me to take it all?" Lang An cheerfully said, "Just take it. If it weren't for you, we would all be dead by now." "So," said the big guy. "That's right, you deserve it." But I immediately stood up, my voice dropping firmly as I said, "I don't want what you're saying next to move, everyone." During this expedition, everyone worked hard, so the spoils should be divided according to the rules as usual. In fact, I didn't exert more effort than anyone else. I did what everyone did at that time. I was just trying my best to save my friends. I spoke sincerely, looking at everyone, and the big guy then added, "All right, since you said that, let's divide according to the rules. After escaping death, everyone is tired, so let's find a place to camp and rest. Having friends like this is sometimes really nice. After dividing, everyone found a place to rest. The sound of water flowing was incredibly refreshing. After bathing, I treated myself to a bit of soda, exhaling in relief. I felt much more comfortable after the bath. At that moment, suddenly the system's voice startled me. "Congratulations, Subject Van Muck." I listened in silence as the system continued, "Due to the subject's outstanding performance, the system will issue a reward." I was surprised. A reward. The system then presented a reward box. "The dimensional box has been distributed. Will please check the server." I was confused, picking it up to examine the dimensional box. The system explained that the dimensional box is used like a lottery and has a chance to draw various equipment and combat skills. I put down the soda can and said, "Isn't this just too random?" I was satisfied to try the new product. Could it be European? Just looking at the prize is enough. Soon after, the dimensional box's knob quickly switched to spinning mode, opening up as various accessory parts gradually emerged, startling me. I opened my eyes wide, staring at them. At that moment, the system quickly disappeared, leaving me standing there in confusion. "Wait, where are my hands?" I yelled in frustration. "Damn it, are you kidding me? There's nothing at all, just a draw from an empty box." The system then announced, "Congratulations, the subject has won a huge prize." Van Muck couldn't help but feel annoyed. "Congratulations, what a joke, there's nothing at all." The system then chimed in. "Level A combat equipment has been acquired." This left him stunned. "Level A equipment?" The system continued. "Congratulations, you've achieved Level A combat maneuvering skills. Would you like to spend internal points to learn it?" Van Muck smiled with satisfaction. "Is there any need to ask? Of course I want to learn." Immediately, a beam of light surrounded him as he began to learn the combat skill. Van Muck was incredibly excited. The light seemed to be taking him somewhere else. In just a moment, his body felt invigorated. The system displayed that the combat maneuvering skill had been successfully learned. Van Muck was very pleased, smiling lightly. "I can't wait to test the power of this combat technique." Night quickly fell. The forest, usually quiet and serene, echoed with the sounds of crickets. A short wizard was walking around with a torch to check things out. At the same time, Van Muck's first shadow suddenly appeared, ambushing him from behind. The short wizard, caught off guard, was knocked away with a single blow, barely managing to let out a scream. It doesn't stop there. Number 1 continues to gain momentum, flying straight towards the dwarf wizard, landing a punch and then kicking him, and just like that, in an instant, he has taken countless hits. Finally, Number 1 finishes off with a knee strike, sending the dwarf wizard's blue blood splattering everywhere, and his mouth is hit so hard he can't close it. Number 1 seems very pleased with his attack. This amazing technique is truly enjoyable. Meanwhile, at Van Moo's tent, a shadow quietly opens the door and steps inside. The intruder looks at him and then compares him to the photo he holds in his hand. He looks exactly like the person in the picture. He doesn't know who sent him, but after confirming the target, he whispers in front of Van Moo, "Sorry, little buddy." He tosses the photo aside, grinning slyly, and continues, "You're too good. You'll get in the way of others. This guy is breaking in, but he just keeps rambling. I hope you remember the line about shooting the leading bird in the next life." Over here, Number 1 looks at the dwarf wizard's corpse, feeling quite smug about his combat skills. The enemy has no strength to fight back. At that moment, the system suddenly blares a warning, "Warning, warning." Number 1's gaze immediately changes as he receives the notification that Van Moo is in danger. "The subject is under threat. Please return to the subject as soon as possible. Warning, warning. The subject is under threat. Please return to the subject as soon as possible." Number 1 is now extremely anxious, shouting, "System, return to the main body, quickly!" He turns back towards Van Moo. After enough rambling, the intruder immediately takes action. It seemed like he was sound asleep, but at the crucial moment, Van Moo's eyes suddenly widen. Right then, an explosion rings out from his bed. The shock causes Van Moo to quickly leap forward, flipping over several times like a professional athlete, and then he immediately lands far enough away. To keep a safe distance, he doesn't know how long Van Moo has been awake, but he probably heard the intruder's monologue. Something falls from the intruder's feet. The voice of the man rings out again. "You escaped my attack!" From behind the cloud of dust, his face gradually appears, and the intruder can't help but praise this kid for being very alert. Van Moo looks at him with caution and immediately asks, "Who are you?" Even though he has been discovered and seen, he remains very calm. "Who I am isn't important. What's important is that tonight you stop." Van Moo's expression is probing as he looks at the opponent. That guy channels his internal energy, his eyes shining, grinning slyly as he continues, "You must die." He acts quite quickly. Van Moo immediately reaches for the system to get a weapon, pulling out a familiar longsword, which is surrounded by a bolt of lightning. But his attack quickly moves to Van Moo's hand, forcing him to let go of the weapon to keep his arm safe. It seems like both of them are a bit mismatched in speed. Van landed on the ground, sweat pouring down. He gritted his teeth silently, cursing his opponent for being so fast. He didn't even have a chance to grab a weapon. He looked at the source of light radiating from him. This guy had taken a half-step into the realm of the Golden Stone Mystic. Why would such a high-level mystic target him? The intruder remarked on how quick his reaction was, wondering if he could escape this time. As soon as he finished speaking, he launched another attack towards Van, just having struck out. It seemed he didn't even give Van a moment to breathe. Before he could dodge that blow, he lunged in for close combat, landing a powerful kick to Van's stomach, causing him to spit out a mouthful of blood. Seeing Van at a disadvantage, he pressed the attack, kicking again, and sending Van tumbling across the ground, the blow launching him out of the tent. The tent couldn't withstand it and ripped open. Van looked up at the sky, blood streaming from his head, feeling utterly miserable inside. He realized he was no match for this opponent without a weapon plummeting in freefall before such a strong adversary. He thought to himself, I'm definitely dead. That guy looked up at Van, still gasping for breath. "Well, this will help you out," he said, leaping high into the air, his shadow disappearing from the ground. The intruder, filled with confidence, prepared to stomp down on Van. It was time to say goodbye. A pair of feet rushed towards him. It was Lang Tuye, running and shouting in worry. Hearing her familiar voice, Van felt like he had found a lifeline. He quickly glanced at the sword in Lang Tuye's hand as she threw it towards him, pulling it from its sheath, shouting for Van to catch it as he faced a dire situation. The throw seemed perfect. Van managed to catch it just in time. With a weapon in hand, he finally had a chance to fight back. Van quickly shouted a loud thank you. The intruder was surprised by Lang Tuye's sudden appearance, but he hadn't yet reacted. Van swiftly swung the sword at him repeatedly. The two figures clashed while Lang Tuye stood below, tense and silently observing as Van turned the tide. The intruder couldn't help but sneer. "Having a weapon in hand doesn't make you equal to me." Van exhaled, gathering his energy. "I've had enough. It's my turn to counterattack." His opponent clenched his fist, spinning and performing some flashy moves in the air, appearing extremely confident as he faced Van. He laughed as if toying with a small prey while Van struggled, raising his sword to block the incoming blows. He then decided to use a series of slashes. He struck continuously at the intruder, who was indeed formidable. His eyes tracked the sword as if he had a 180-degree camera. Every slash Van made, he effortlessly dodged. Not forgetting to praise Van's swordsmanship, he remarked how exquisite it was. Van remained focused, refusing to let his opponent distract him. Finally, the blade of Van's sword was caught by the intruder's bare hand. He casually put one hand in his pocket, scoffing at the attack, but the force wasn't enough. So pausing for a moment, he flung Van away disdainfully, stating, "That won't work on me," as Van flew like a ball across the ground. The intruder landed just as Van fell, glancing at him. "All right, the game ends here." Before he struck, he couldn't help but comment, "I must say you're a good seed. It would be a shame to kill you, but business is business." He couldn't let personal feelings interfere, so Van silently listened to him, forcing himself to stand firm as the intruder gathered his energy again. He was surrounded by a thick flame. This was the 8 Extremes Fire Dragon technique. His gaze remained disdainful as he looked at Van. "Go die!" he shouted, and from within the flames he unleashed his attack. A terrifying demonic face suddenly lunged towards Van Mu while being affected by this attack. Around him, he couldn't hold back. A strong wind suddenly rose at that moment. Van Mu flashed a mysterious smile that quickly caught the attention of the other guy. He looked at him bewildered as the flames were about to engulf Van Mu, yet he couldn't help but wonder what this kid was smiling about at that moment. Van Mu's entire body radiated a soothing blue light, and at that moment the system suddenly announced that the total number of frenzied blades had reached level 4. With the skill upgraded, Van Mu now felt more confident, casually slinging his sword over his shoulder and smiling lightly at him, feeling quite pleased with himself. It seemed like Van Mu had been waiting for something all along. Van Mu gripped the frenzied blade tightly and began to unleash his technique, this time using the ultimate Earth Return Slash, and the other guy quickly guessed what he was planning. This kid. Could it be that he wants to take on my 8 Extremes Flame Dragon? Van Mu began to leap towards the raging flames in an instant. He shifted from a defensive stance to an offensive one, delivering a powerful slash that emitted light like ice, countering the flames as the two extremes clashed fiercely in battle. It was uncertain who would emerge victorious at that moment. The massive flames were blazing brightly, filling the space with an intense energy, and it seemed like the victory was leaning towards the intruder when suddenly his flames extinguished completely, leaving no trace behind. The intruder still didn't realize what was happening, standing there dazed for a long while, when suddenly his expression changed, looking extremely anxious. In the blink of an eye, one of his arms was chopped off, blood splattering on the ground. No wonder he was reacting strangely. He was so startled that he couldn't even scream as Van Mu pointed his sword straight at the one who attacked him, this time just chopping off his arm. The next move would be to kill him. After a moment, the pain finally reached him, and he clutched his bleeding wound, screaming, "My arm, ouch!" It hurt so much. Van Mu remained expressionless, standing still and watching him writhe in front of him, the severe injury making the intruder pale as he looked at Van Mu with resentment. "You bastard, I won't forgive you." Van Mu calmly withdrew his sword, challenging him. "Do you still want to continue?" Then he advised him that if he didn't handle it quickly, he would bleed too much and die. What he said was indeed very reasonable, causing the intruder to panic and leap away. Before leaving, he didn't forget to say, "Kid, remember this." A long night passed, the intruder had left, and the surrounding space returned to its quiet appearance. Lang Tuye stepped forward, looking at him and calling out, "Van Mu!" His breath was a bit hurried after her call, and suddenly Van Mu spat out blood and collapsed, causing Lang Tuye to be terrified. She was startled and shouted, "Van Mu!" Lang Tuye rushed over to support him, worried and anxiously yelling, "What's wrong with you?" Although Van Mu was not well, he still tried to reassure her, "Don't worry, I'm fine." He said that, but the exhaustion on Van Mu's face couldn't be hidden. He fell silent for a moment, regulating his breathing, then said to her, "Thank you, I owe you my life." Luckily, he didn't realize that I was just deceiving him. I would die if I continued. Lang Tuye didn't respond, just handed him a towel. Luckily, he didn't realize that I was just deceiving him. I would die if I kept being reckless. Tuye doesn't respond. She just hands him a towel. Van Moach quickly replied with a thank you, and soon everyone gathered around wondering about Antu and Tu Kwang's patrol tonight, just like the mysterious man. It only left them stunned without killing them. He looked at Van Mook and guessed that the opponent's target wasn't all of our enemies, but specifically Tu Muak. Hearing this, Van Mook's face darkened. Everything Dai Hung said had a basis. Lang Tuye continued, "It seems we've crossed some high-level interests, so they've sent assassins to eliminate our main forces," Lang An added. "But if that's the case, why just take the life of Li Van Mook analyzed? Your strength is also quite strong. After all, our family is considered famous. Even the superiors wouldn't dare to attack me easily." Lang Tuye recounted, "My master is a saint. No matter who it is, they must respect him." Van Mook secretly despised being bullied because he had no background and was seen as a soft target. Thinking of this anger surged within him, and he silently vowed to take revenge. Dai Hung was extremely worried for him. "Let's not take any action these days and rest in place. We'll talk about it until Tu Muach recovers." Van Mook spoke up, "I'm fine. We have a high ranking. If we rest now, we'll be in trouble." Lang Tuye immediately patted him on the shoulder, cutting him off. "What nonsense are you saying?" She turned away and threw back, "Your life is more important than the results of the competition." Hearing this, Van Mook's heart suddenly felt a warm surge. Then Lang Tuye reminded everyone, "All right, everyone, go rest. I'll keep watch tonight." Van Mook wiped the blood of that guy off the ground with his finger, thinking this matter wasn't over yet. "Don't even think about escaping." He coldly ordered the blood news scanning system. Obeying Van Mook's command, the system displayed the blood code on his hand, beginning to analyze it. Just a moment later, the system had already identified it. His information was quickly stored in the database. At the same time, Dai Hung's voice startled Van Mook. He had just mentioned the system, and internally Van Mook screamed, "I've been discovered!" Before he knew it, morning had come. The daytime air in the forest felt more pleasant, and it seemed Van Mook had woken up even earlier than the sun, or perhaps he hadn't slept at all last night. In his hand at this moment was a stream of green energy. It was unclear what Van Mook intended to do with it. Soon he clenched it tightly in his palm, looking quite satisfied with it. "Now it will penetrate all the mystical points." Van Mook smiled happily. "These past 2 days were truly thanks to the shadow continuously defeating monsters and bringing me loot." He reminded himself that if he wanted to go further now, he had to condense the Mystic Stone armor. However, in the future, when using the shadow system, he really had to be more careful. Last time, he almost got discovered. He had to lie that he meant, "It's time to update the system on my computer." Dai Hung didn't suspect anything. He just said, "I think mine should be updated too." While he was lounging on the sofa, the system rang with a notification that he had accumulated 10,000 points and wanted to ask the host if he wanted to consume them. And this time, the consumption of points was for condensing the second shadow. Upon hearing this, Van Mook immediately sat up, looking at the second shadow. He pondered, if there's a second shadow, wouldn't that mean the experience of killing monsters would be doubled? Thinking about it, Van Mook excitedly shouted that it was great to stop the condensation, and he had just consumed 10,000 points. As soon as he finished speaking, streams of black light appeared from his hands. Van Mook was intrigued as he looked at his body, which was now splitting into another shadow. This process would surely take quite some time, and in front of him a large round hole had appeared. Van Mook looked over and couldn't help but feel delighted. He chuckled softly. "Is this my new shadow?" Unlike the first shadow, its shape resembled a robot, and the condensation process was a success. Van Mook looked at them and said to himself that since there were two shadows, they needed names to differentiate them. Otherwise, no one would know what to call him. Thinking of this, he smiled excitedly. This would be resolved, and his solution was to number them. Van Mook was very pleased with this approach. From now on, the two would be called number 1 and number 2. It felt like he was a useless person, but naming them felt just right. Suddenly, a noise from outside made Van Mook quickly calm down. "Number 1, number 2, quickly return!" The loud knocking at the door made him a bit annoyed as he opened the door and called out, "Coming!" "What's the rush?" But as soon as he saw the person, Van Mook immediately changed his attitude. Lang Tuye, upon seeing him, got straight to the point, saying she had just received news that many seated contestants had been attacked by assassins. Among them was LaFoe's team. Hearing this, Van Mook couldn't help but worry. "Lunai Tiep, is she okay?" Lang Tuyet reassured him, "Don't worry, LaFoe's injuries are the most serious, but the others are only lightly injured. The Mystic Guild has also conducted a thorough investigation into this incident. Regarding this matter, according to the information Lang Tuye received, the Mystic Guild takes this issue very seriously. The mastermind behind the scenes and the city they depend on will be severely punished." Suddenly, Van Mook stammered, "Lang Tuyet, why are you here at the camp today? Aren't you with the big guys training?" This sudden question startled Lang Tuye. Her face turned as red as a tomato, and her voice became chaotic. "Actually, it's because after observing these days, I think you're really a great guy." Her face was hot. "So I stayed here today because I wanted to talk to you privately." Van Mook's face was also burning up at this moment. Internally, he thought, could it be that Lang Tuye? Lang Tuye lowered her head and spoke loudly. "I've thought about these words for a long time and gathered all my courage to say them." After that, she mustered all her courage, stepped forward, and held Van Mook's hand tightly. "So you have to agree with me." His cheeks were flushed, and suddenly he felt hot all over. Internally, Van Mook was screaming, "It's happening!" Lang Tuye looked at him happily and continued, "I want to learn your swordsmanship skills. Let's fight." After hearing these words, Van Mook's heart skipped a beat. He was stunned. Before he could gather his thoughts, Lang Tuye had already drawn her sword. "Are you ready? I'm attacking." Van Mook scratched his head. He mechanically drew his sword. "Okay, I'm ready." This embarrassment still lingered in his mind. Van Mook thought to himself, this woman is a martial arts maniac. "What am I looking forward to? I look like an idiot." Right after that, Lang Tuye swung a powerful strike towards him, excitedly shouting, "Come on!" At this moment, Van Mook still hadn't attacked. He just gently dodged those frenzied sword strikes. But he couldn't deny that she truly lived up to her name. Every cut was swift and precise. There were hardly any mistakes to find, but of course Van Mook wouldn't back down either. He silently resolved, "Even so, I won't admit defeat." His sword was also attacking now. Although Lang Tuye managed to dodge in time, she couldn't help but be startled. He was fast. Her hand then swiftly maneuvered the sword in her hand, gliding smoothly. Van Mook smugly smiles at Lang Tuye, and next comes a wild slash. Lang Tuye immediately leaps away to avoid it. The distance is now at a safe level. She glares at him, unable to hold back her admiration for the tremendous force. Lang Tuye looks through the swirling winds around Van Mook. This is a deadly technique. "Are you planning to use your ultimate move so soon?" Van Mook doesn't answer that question. He stays silent for a moment and then shouts, "Try this move of mine!" This catches her off guard. The first slash is only at the first level yet. As he uses the whirlwind, it suddenly rises. Lang Tuye is overwhelmed and must quickly leap away to avoid it, but she ends up falling to the ground. She furrows her brow. "I really can't let my guard down." Just as she finishes her sentence, Van Mook suddenly appears near her, looking down at her. The two are now in close combat. Lang Tuye struggles to hold her ground while Van Mook remains calm. Second level there. Lang Tuye is secretly startled. Second level. How can the skills of this martial art stack up? Time is running out. She doesn't understand why she starts to run away. Van Mook doesn't chase after her. Lang Tuye grits her teeth, starting to calculate. Realizing it's not good, she must escape before facing him or she'll only suffer from his tricks. "I have to find a way to break his sword technique." Just as that thought crossed his mind, Van Mook charged forward, swinging his sword with great force. If she had been just a moment slower, she would have taken the full brunt of that strike. This is a third-tier sword technique. Although it was a bit challenging, Lang Tuye was still able to block it. After a while, Van Mook stopped fighting from a distance. He leaned on her shoulder, preparing to thrust downward. A glint of killing intent appeared in his eyes as he focused his voice cold as he spoke of the fourth tier. Suddenly, Lang Tuye's hand fiercely gripped his sword blade. She acted so recklessly all of a sudden. Van Mook was taken aback, his mind racing. What was Lang Tuye doing? She was breathing heavily, her sword technique becoming more powerful with every move. After a brief pause, she looked at Van Mook, her eyes filled with killing intent. Then I'll take you down in one move. With her other hand, she tightly gripped the long sword, seizing the opportunity to stab through his blade, slashing across her own neck. Van Mook was caught off guard this time, left utterly bewildered. Lang Tuye couldn't help but feel triumphant, exclaiming loudly that the outcome was already decided. Van Mook seemed unaware of the situation, even though he was facing someone as strong as her. His own breath was becoming rapid. But Lang Tuye was quite pleased, while Van Mook couldn't help but breathe heavily. Lang Tuye was indeed a formidable opponent. Both stood in silence for a moment, their sword stances unchanged. After the recent battle, everyone was exhausted. Sweat had been dripping from Lang Tuye's forehead for some time, but she still looked directly at him and said, "I've won." After that, Lang Tuye sheathed her sword. Van Mook couldn't help but compliment her, saying, "You really are a fierce woman," as Lang Tuye's hand was wrapped in cloth to block that strike. Fresh blood continued to flow, and before they knew it, the sun began to set. Lang Tuye turned back her spirits high, saying, "We're back." Dai Hung, who was always observant, glanced over and asked, "Lang Tuye, what happened to your hand?" She looked at her hand wrapped in cloth and pretended to say, "It's nothing, just a little scratch." Everyone gathered together, and Dai Hung began recounting the events of the day. "We three went to explore the territory of the Dwarf Witch Tribe based on what I observed last time. The Dwarf Witch Tribe has become cautious, so even though Tumuk Muk's injury has healed, it will be difficult for us to use the previous method to launch an attack." Van Mook sat quietly listening, at least. After a moment, Dai Hung cheerfully continued, "However, I just got some very interesting information that made me think of a new battle strategy." He looked over at Lang Tuye with a bright smile. "But it will be quite tough for you, Tuye." Suddenly mentioned, she was a bit startled. Van Tuye glanced at him, unsure of what this kid was planning now. Once the discussion was over, everyone went back to their tents to rest and regain their spirits. The next morning, Lang An seemed very cheerful, smiling brightly at Dai Hung. "Everything you need has been loaded onto the truck," and Dai Hung replied with satisfaction. "We can set off as long as Tuye is ready," and at that moment a shy voice spoke up. "I told you Lang Tuye feels shy in that dress." It revealed a bit of skin and her face turned pink. "Is it really supposed to be like this?" Dai Hung smiled brightly. "Of course you need to dress like this. It's the right strategy." Van Mook was also blushing a little hearing Dai Hung say that. Although she didn't want to, she had no other choice. Remembering last night, she had protested quite vehemently, "Stop joking around." "I don't want to seduce the dwarf chief," Dai Hung said with a wry smile. All right. I know this will make you uncomfortable, but it's all for the team." Van Mook also spoke up. "What kind of crazy strategy is this?" "Sister Tuye also has to sacrifice her beauty," Kwang recounted. "When we were investigating this morning, we happened to encounter an old witch killing some dwarf witches. You guys just heard that name. They demanded that a beautiful woman be offered up to their elder," Dai Hung continued. Hearing this, I immediately got an idea. This time, let's play a big game. Since the dwarf chief is a pervert, we should plan to act by sliding our hands across his neck. First, we should capture the king and directly kill the dwarf chief. Let's go back to reality." They quickly arrived at the place where two dwarf witches were guarding. Dai Hung whispered, "Do you see them?" "It's those two," Lang Tuye said, feeling a bit uneasy. "Are you sure there won't be any problems?" Dai Hung smiled. "Don't worry, just stick to the plan." His eyes were very mischievous. "I'll pretend to chase you away so the dwarf witches will see you. When they see a beautiful woman, they'll take you and offer you to their leader. We'll follow and can find the dwarf witch's lair without any accidents." Van Mook was also hiding in a nearby big tree, listening to Dai Hung's arrangement. "When the time comes, we'll directly kill the dwarf chief and take them all out in one go." And Dai Hung called this method the beauty trap. Lang Tuye looked at it and couldn't help but feel exasperated, but in the end she still agreed to get ready. Immediately, a loud scream broke the quiet space. "Sister, stop making such a loud noise!" It really attracted that dwarf witch. He immediately turned his head to look in the direction of the sound. Following the plan, Lang Tuye quickly ran past them, pretending to panic and shouting for help. Behind her, the one chasing was none other than Dai Hung, wearing a perverted expression along with a sly smile. You could say his acting was a perfect 10. Lang Tuye tried to force herself to be scared and continued to scream. "Someone help me!" Looking at Dai Hung's face, she silently cried out, "Oh, I want to throw up from these words." The one throwing and the one catching were in perfect harmony when Dai Hung tripped over a small stone underfoot while performing well and suddenly fell face first to the ground. He was startled and yelled, "Ouch! Ouch!" at that moment. The hair tie of Dai Hung just happened to snap and fall to the ground, leaving his hair in disarray. He sat up, brushed his face. "Damn it, I fell," at this moment. But because he fell and hit his face on the ground, Dai Hung couldn't help but shed tears. He lamented, "It hurts too much." He didn't understand how he looked in the eyes of those dwarf witches. They were both very confused looking at each other. In the end, everything happened beyond expectations. The one who was taken away was Dai Hung, and he was startled, screaming, "Ouch! Put me down!" Lang Tuye was also bewildered. "Does this mean my charm has lost to a man?" Meanwhile, by the big tree, the three young men were also horrified. "What is all this?" In front of Lang Tuye's face, which looked like she stepped in something unpleasant, Dai Hung was still shouting, "Let me go! What are you guys doing?" What is all this? Lang Tuye's face looked like she had stepped in something unpleasant. Dai Hung was shouting, "Let me go! What are you all doing?" She couldn't help but say that the development of this story felt like a dreamscape as all three of them rushed out from their hiding spot, tense and shouting, "What can we do now?" This time it was bad, the plan failed, and Dai Hung got captured. Van Muk quickly reassured everyone, "Don't panic, things aren't as bad as you think." He started directing Chi Tu-yet to access Dai Hung's network to track his location. Lang Tu-ye immediately complied, and soon the tracking device was operational, pinpointing their location. Van Mook continued, "Actually, this change is different from the original plan. It's just a bait switched from Chi Tu-ye to Dai Hung. We don't need to panic," he said calmly. "We'll continue with the original plan and cooperate with Dai Hung inside and out to take down the dwarf sorcerer. Let's get moving. It seems today is going to be a long day for our Dai Hung." He turned toward a dark cave. Inside, lit by a small candle, a girl was tied up with her hands bound high above her head, dressed in an incredibly delicate manner, and that girl was none other than Dai Hung. He was dressed oddly and was a bit frustrated. The ropes were tied very tightly. At that moment, the voice of the dwarf sorcerer echoed, "My beautiful lady, you are inside my king." The man stepped in satisfied and reminded, "Good, you can leave now." "Wait a moment. No matter what happens, don't disturb me. Do you hear me?" He held a bouquet of fresh flowers and a bottle of wine, and upon seeing Dai Hung, his eyes lit up. "Ah, my little beauty, you've been waiting for a long time, haven't you?" The look in this king's eyes couldn't hide his desire as he gazed at him from the outside. Van Muk was still busy fighting off many dwarf sorcerers who had fallen. He proudly shouted, "The monster guarding the cave entrance has been dealt with. We can move out now." Lang Tu-yet reported the coordinates showing Dai Hung was in this cave. "It seemed like the lair of the dwarf sorcerers, but we need to be quicker. Dai Hung's coordinates haven't moved for a while. I think he must have been taken to the king." The dwarf sorcerer. Van Muk anxiously instructed on Tu and Tu Kwang, "You two need to stick close. Being left behind is no joke." Luke Kwang immediately replied, "Got it." And right after that, everyone quickly entered the cave. Van Muk charged forward from Dai Hung's side, disgusted, kicking the king in the face and shouting, "Stay away from me." He looked at him with disdain and couldn't help but curse, "You disgusting piece of trash." The king staggered to his feet, the bouquet in his hand quickly thrown to the ground, and he couldn't hold back. He lunged directly at Dai Hung. "My love, you're so hot, let this king love you." His face showed a cunning expression. "Right, because you're so energetic, why don't we play a game?" His hand tightened around Dai Hung's face, applying more pressure. The dwarf king asked, "Can I say yes?" "Over here." Van Muk's group was still anxiously following Dai Hung's trail. They had finally gotten very close to their target. Inside, the entrance was tangled like a maze. As Van Muk peeked out, he immediately heard the hushed whispers of the dwarf sorcerers. He quickly signaled everyone to wait. Lang Tu-ye curiously asked, "What's wrong?" Van Muk pressed himself against the wall and whispered to her, "There are guards. We can't go this way." He was feeling a bit anxious. It wasn't a good idea to clash with them in the cave of the dwarf sorcerers. Chi Tu-yet should find a new route. Lang Tu-ye was also feeling the heat, but this was the last path to the king's bedroom. Lucy chimed in, "What now, you don't really want to fight them here, do you? Isn't it at the same time?" Van Muk spotted a small hole on his head and came up with a bold idea, looking quite pleased with himself. "Dai Hung, wait for me, I'll be right there." The chains binding Dai Hung's hands to the wall were finally released, allowing him to stretch a bit. The little king then said, "Now how about we play a game?" He raised the key mischievously and said, "The rules of this game are simple. You run first and then I chase you. If I catch up, it'll be exciting because your resistance will only make me more thrilled." Dai Hung looked at this long-nosed creep with disdain. He couldn't help but feel disgusted. It was such a terrible game. Immediately, the little king couldn't hold back anymore and lunged at him, and so the game began. The little king's eyes were bloodshot, and he laughed loudly with excitement as he ran after the petite beauty Dai Hung, who immediately jumped up and shouted, "Who will run from this disgusting monster?" His hand quickly pressed down on the little king's head, catching him off guard. Of course, he couldn't react in time. Dai Hung seized the moment. He showed no mercy and kicked the little king squarely in the face, causing him to spit out a mouthful of blood. In the little king's eyes, Dai Hung was just a weak girl. There was no way to resist in this situation. He was a bit startled as Dai Hung's hands quickly pushed down against the ground, using it to gain momentum. Next, Dai Hung spun around and began to kick out. The chains on his hands were quite cumbersome, but they didn't hinder him. Instead, he used them to tighten around the little king. His arms were bound just like that. In no time, he was tightly restrained by Dai Hung's speed. He could only stand still while Dai Hung joyfully tightened the chains even more. He himself was excited and shouted, "The game is over!" It seemed like he had been defeated, but suddenly the little king's cunning voice rang out, "It's not over yet, who said that?" Somehow, he quickly turned and dodged Dai Hung's binding strike. Of course, he was still able to evade. But the situation had changed. The little king quickly gained the upper hand and didn't stop there. He pulled a weapon from his sleeve and charged directly at Dai Hung, the little king, pressing his terrifying face close to Dai Hung's. Dai Hung hated it and used the chains to block the little king, who instead of being deterred was quite delighted, saying, "I've got you now." Dai Hung couldn't hold back and shouted, "You ugly creep, hurry up!" At that moment, the ventilation hole above began to react slightly. Van Muck, like a hero saving a damsel in distress, flew down from above and kicked him away, shouting, "Get away from him!" Dai Hung fell to the ground. While he was still dazed, Van Muck cheerfully asked, "Did I make it in time?" Lang Tuye worriedly asked, "Are you okay?" Dai Hung smiled brightly. "If you were a bit slower, I might not be pure anymore." Over here, Van Muck immediately changed his expression, looking serious as he faced the little king, ready to fight. He stood up and laughed loudly. "You damn guy finding such a beautiful woman to trick me." His eyes had changed, becoming more aggressive. "You all must have really made me angry now." Dai Hung laughed heartily and lifted his shirt. "Sorry I'm a man, so what if I lied to you? You biting me is just a way to deceive you." Hearing this, his anger flared even more. You all can only laugh at this moment. The short king then gathered his inner strength, and a whirlwind began to rise around him, releasing a powerful aura as if the short king was evolving. The earth and rocks shook from this impact, flying up continuously. Van Mu looked on, gritting his teeth. What has this guy done? He couldn't hide his astonishment at the short king. This pressure is truly terrifying. The short king over here is still evolving, gritting his teeth and letting out a loud roar. A whirlwind then erupted. Everything around seemed to be sucked in. Meanwhile, outside, the large rocks couldn't help but tremble. In an instant, Van Mu was outside the cave, coughing from the dust. He stood up. Looking around, he couldn't help but marvel at the immense power. The cave had collapsed. The short king stood on a high rock, looking down at him with disdain. His body had completely transformed. The foolish appearance had vanished. The short king coldly asked, "Are you ready to die?" "Over here." On the system screen, a red emergency notification immediately appeared, alarming everyone that bright red energy had been detected. The supervisor couldn't help but be surprised. Bright red energy. He stared blankly at the report data. His eyes showed a sense of urgency. After regaining his composure, he immediately stood up to report. "The king of the dwarf sorcerers has activated the great curse of the dimension." Transforming into a king-level monster, the person listening was startled. The great curse of the dimension descending is truly troublesome. This attack could kill all the test subjects. The control panel became frantic as he continuously pressed buttons, feeling annoyed at these little demons provoking him for what purpose. "Cancel the game and summon all test teams at once. Send the mystical stone experts to assist the teams in evacuating." The remaining ones shouted to return to Van Mu's side. The short king was now slowly approaching him, extending his sharp-clawed hand and raising it towards Van Mu, who hadn't even stood up yet. The flames rushed towards the short king standing there. He continued to unleash another wave of power, whistling continuously, clearly confident that he would take Van Mu down. Van Mu stared at him, secretly astonished, as he sensed the change in his aura, looking at the sword in his hand. Van Mu firmly believed that we couldn't deal with him at all right now. He was sweating, staring intently at the short king. Just the pressure he released made him feel an unprecedented fear. Over here, he spun the sword in a circle and then raised it high. Just as he finished the motion, the short king aimed at him and struck down hard into the ground. Van Mu watched the short king's attack. His body involuntarily trembled. Van Mu didn't dodge his gaze fixed on him, realizing that his body was too scared to move at that moment. Lang Tuye rushed over just in time, shouting, "You idiot, what are you dazed about?" She forcefully pushed Van Mu down to the ground, continuing, "Get your act together. There's no time for you to be dazed anymore." After that, Lang Tuye quickly summoned her sword. "Hey, ugly, look over here." As she spoke, she fiercely slashed towards the short king. Unlike Van Mu's fear, Lang Tuye was full of energy while Van Mu's breath became hurried. He reassured himself, "Damn it, move quickly." Then he anxiously looked over at his two friends, An Tu and Tu Kwang. "Are you guys okay?" But these two had passed out at some point. It seemed they couldn't withstand the pressure from the short king, and at that moment, Lang Tuye was also sent flying far away, her slender body crashing hard against a large rock behind her. Van Mook looked at her in confusion, exclaiming in despair, "Chi Tuye!" The Dwarf King looked at her with disdain, praising, "What a good woman, it's such a pity that she's about to die here." His eyes were filled with killing intent as the sword in his hand began to move. Van Mook felt a surge of urgency, pounding his stiff legs with his hands. "Damn it, move!" The Dwarf King raised his sword high again, coldly saying, "Farewell, woman." Van Mook was extremely anxious, gritting his teeth and shouting, "Move!" On the other side, the Dwarf King's sword began to swing down fiercely towards Lang Tuyet, accompanied by a deafening whistle. Van Mook watched, feeling increasingly tense. He kept shouting, hitting himself hard, "Move!" Lang Tuyet's body after the recent impact. She could no longer lift herself up, only able to stare wide-eyed, bracing for impact. Finally, Van Mook didn't let her down. He quickly broke free from his fear. The body soared up on those trembling legs, still stiff from fear. The back leg aggressively kicked hard into the Dwarf King's head, catching him off guard and causing him to lose his balance. The body flew straight into the distant rock, and Van Moo looked worriedly back, asking, "Sister Lang Tuyet, can you still get up?" Even though she had just been beaten to the point of spitting blood, she still smiled brightly and asked, "Should I ask you this, little one, are your legs shaking with fear?" Van Moo laughed confidently, saying, "There's no time to be scared. I'll be done for if I wait any longer just this once." I accelerated myself, realizing you had stabbed your leg to get rid of that numb feeling. Lang Tuye was left speechless. "Are you out of your mind?" Van Moo spoke up. "All right, it's fine. Get ready to run." Just as he finished, a car quickly approached, surprising both of them, and Lang Tuyet tried to stand up. The car stopped quickly in front of them. It turned out to be Dai Hung, who urgently shouted, "Get in the car!" This action was due to our reckless retreat. Lang Tuye immediately replied, "Okay, let's go. Go find my brother and Zhao Chang. Where are they?" Van Moo pointed. "They're over there." The Dwarf King quickly regained consciousness, gripping a rock tightly to stand up. He looked darkly at Van Moo and said, "It's you again," his cold voice startling Van Moo. The Dwarf King rubbed his sore spot, his eyes glowing red like a demon. "You little brat, I will definitely take your life again." Van Moo stared blankly at him, and the Dwarf King looked at him again, repeating, "I will definitely take your life." His legs began to lift into the air. He smugly said, "You think you can escape in vain." Van Moo silently looked at him, seemingly unable to find a countermeasure. The Dwarf King flew higher, raising his hand and looking down. "You all underestimate me." Thunderous sounds suddenly roared as lightning gathered in his hand. Van Moo couldn't help but feel anxious inside, silently screaming, "This is—" Then Van Moo immediately looked at Lang Tuye and shouted, "Hurry, get in the car!" But she was still dazed. Suddenly, a loud explosion rang out, sending Lang Tuyet flying away. Luckily for her, Dai Hung caught her just in time, urgently saying, "There's no time, we have to get in the car now." Lang Tuyet struggled, shouting, "No, my brother, they're still in there." At that moment, as her words ended, Lang On and Liu Qiang suddenly flew out. Van Moo shouted, "Quick, get them out!" Seeing the two lying motionless on the ground, Dai Hung couldn't help but be surprised. "An Zi Xiao Qiang, what happened?" But they didn't have much time to be dazed. Van Moo immediately rushed over, grabbing their collars and lifting them up. "Sister Tuyet, let's go!" The four of them settled in the car, and Dai Hung happily shouted, "Okay, ready to go." But Lang Tuyet still looked worried. "Wait, you're really not taking Li Van Moo, are you?" Dai Hung started the engine while saying, "If we don't escape right now, there won't be another chance. We want to win. The space monster is at the king level. Unless there's a miracle, I still can't feel at ease." Lang Tuye's heart felt like it was being hit by hundreds of waves, but Li Van Moo and Dai Hung reassured her. "Don't worry. If there's a miracle in this world, it must be Li Van Moo." After a pause, Dai Hung continued, "It can only be him." Lang Tuyet fell silent for a moment, seeing Dai Hung's sharp gaze. He completely placed his trust in Van Moo. They hadn't driven far when a loud shout suddenly echoed, "Stop the car!" It turned out the one running like crazy behind was Van Moo, panting and trying to shout, "Wait for me!" Even though he had strong faith in his friend, Dai Hung couldn't believe how quickly he dealt with that guy. Lang Tuye anxiously told Van Mook to stop the car while Van Mook was running after him, shouting loudly, "Slow down, I can't keep up!" Dai Hung quickly realized he wasn't hearing things and slammed on the brakes. As Van Mook got in, Dai Hung couldn't help but tease, "You got out early, huh? I was ready!" He began to reminisce about the memories of the heroes, and Van Mook, puzzled, wondered what being a hero really meant and how he managed to escape. Could it be that he killed the dwarf wizard? Van Mook waved his hand. "Of course not! How could I do that alone? I just noticed he became stronger in a confined space, and I was just trying to escape that area." Dai Hung couldn't help but praise the kid. "You're really clever. It's lucky you managed to retreat safely." Van Mook didn't deny it. He was exhausted, resting his head against the car seat, replying, "Yeah, Remembering the earlier battle, Van Muck truly felt battered blood in his mouth, continuously spitting out while the dwarf wizard stood proudly watching him get struck by his thunder. And yet he was still alive. He grabbed Van Muck's hair, pulling him up. Van Muck was panting, feeling frustrated. "Damn it, that golden center pierced me," the Dwarf King lamented, even staying back for his friend. True friendship is really touching. As soon as he finished speaking, he immediately channeled his internal energy and threw Van Muck like a ball, leaving him powerless as his back slammed hard against a large rock. Blood gushed out again from behind, and the Dwarf King looked at him with disdain. "Even with this little strength, you still want to confront me." Van Muck suddenly smiled slyly. "They've been gone for so long. Surely they wouldn't know what was happening here. They probably won't see it coming." Then Van Muck pointed at that guy. "Hey, Pinocchio, you're different from before." Now Van Mook seemed very interested. "Today I'm going to show you something good." His eyes lit up as he looked at the Dwarf King. "You should thank me." The system activated and Van Muck relaxed, leaning against the rock. "I'm going to show you something good." Then he loudly called out "Number 1, Number 2" from within his body. 2 streams of purple-green figures immediately flew out. The Dwarf King was momentarily stunned, standing still, watching the 2 strange lights surround him. What the? Before he could react. The 2 shadows quickly revealed their true forms. The Dwarf King had certainly never seen anything so bizarre. 2 figures in green and purple immediately flew out. The short king was momentarily stunned, standing still as he watched the 2 strange lights surrounding him. Something was coming quickly, not giving him much time to wait. The 2 shadows immediately revealed their true forms. The short king had, of course, never seen anything so strange before. He wondered what the hell this was. "Van Moo looked at the blood on your mouth and really thought I would let my companions run away and stay behind just to be nice. Let them run, huh? I just didn't want them to see how I killed you." You looked at him confused, but deep down you felt quite pleased, thinking that not everything could be shared with others. Then Van Moo shouted an order. "All right, Number 1. Number 2, kill him." As soon as you finished speaking, Number 2 charged forward, throwing a powerful punch at that little king. He still couldn't figure out what he was fighting, but he leaped up and ran away. From above, he could see Number 2 more clearly, but he couldn't help but wonder, what the hell is this? What the hell is this? Is it a creature from another dimension? No way. Van Moo sat calmly as if watching a play, shouting at him, "Hey, ugly." You looked at him with disdain, a smug smile on your face, asking, "Did you forget something like this?" Behind the little king, Number 1 had quickly appeared out of nowhere. Van Moo continued with his unfinished sentence, "I still have one more." Just as he finished speaking, Number 1 swiftly stabbed from behind. Blood spurted from his back and mouth. Unable to hold back, he screamed in pain. Van Moo remained relaxed, watching the battle unfold. You scoffed, mocking him. "Look at that!" At that moment, Van Moo stood up and dusted off his hands. "All right, almost done. I can go back and see you like this." The little king couldn't help but wonder where this kid wanted to go. Van Moo casually replied, "Of course it's a retreat." The little king shouted angrily. "You bastard, are you just going to walk away like this? Don't you want to kill me anymore? Come here and fight me." Meanwhile, the 2 shadows kept attacking relentlessly. As soon as he finished speaking, he had to quickly defend himself. Van Moo smirked. "Come on, I can't fight you." "Well, why should I stay and fight? I never said I wanted to challenge you. That's just your own daydream." Your words and attitude drove him crazy. The little king was so furious he gritted his teeth. Van Moo turned away, not forgetting to throw back a remark. "This is a battlefield. And victory is the only thing that matters these days. People still say that enemies are to be despised. You turned back, sticking out your tongue in mockery. I fear that's not a fool." Then you laughed heartily, casually running away. "I'm off now. Number 1 and Number 2 are here. I'll leave it to you." Back to the present, Lang Tuye seemed to be heavily injured, unable to hold back, covering her mouth and coughing violently. Seeing her expression, Van Moo couldn't help but worry. "Sister Tuye, are you okay?" Lang Tuye lowered her head, reassuring him. "It's fine, don't worry." You felt extremely guilty, unable to hold back. You spoke up. "I'm sorry, it's all because of me." Sister Tuye smiled gently. "Hey, you can't blame yourself. This is the first time you've seen a royal-level space monster. A normal person wouldn't be able to handle it. Long ago, they simply gave up resisting." Dai Hung added, "That's right. You can't blame him. This is the first time he's seen a royal-level spatial monster. A normal person wouldn't be able to handle it. Long ago, they simply gave up resisting," Dai Hung added. "That's right." Looking at the 2 people sleeping soundly behind him, this was the reaction of a normal person seeing a king-level monster for the first time. The will of the monster was too strong, wasn't it? Van Muck glanced at the 2 people who were still unconscious behind him and wondered if that was a normal reaction upon seeing a king-level being at the same time. The system immediately chimed in, and Van Muck silently speculated that it seemed the dwarf wizard had been killed. But contrary to his thoughts, the dwarf wizard was gasping for breath. He gripped the sword tightly in his hand, and the system also announced that the battle had ended. The shadow of your friend has been completely eliminated, yet the dwarf wizard still stood tall, and after hearing this news, Van Muck, his eyes instantly grew serious. This was something unexpected that Van Muck hadn't thought of. His face tensed as he silently thought, damn it, I didn't expect the shadow to be killed so quickly. At this moment, the system announced again that since the shadow of the subject had died, would you like to resurrect it directly or revive it with consciousness? Van Muck silently calculated. Revive it with consciousness, huh? The system explained that reviving with consciousness could upgrade the shadow into a soul of darkness that possesses emotions and intelligence and can master combat skills better. And of course, the upgrade requirement was 2,000 points. Van Muck rubbed his temples, feeling frustrated. Without needing to say more, I chose resurrection with consciousness. From their perspective, chaos could be seen outside, and Van Muck couldn't help but wonder why the space monsters were going crazy. At that moment, the system announced, all right, you have successfully resurrected and upgraded the soul of darkness. The intercom in the vehicle crackled to life, and a hurried voice rang out, all testing teams, please be advised a king-level monster has appeared in the testing field. The Mystic Association has decided to end the competition, and all teams should evacuate quickly. Dai Hung listened in surprise. End the competition, we have so many points. Isn't that a waste? Forget it. Life is more important. He then turned to Van Muck and asked, Tumuk, do you think? Before he could finish, he noticed Van Muck was asleep in the vehicle. Even though the vehicle was bouncing around like that, Dai Hung felt a pang of sympathy. Is he asleep? He seems really exhausted. Turning back to the Dwarf King, after dealing with the two shadows, he sat down to catch his breath. Looking at the two trophies before him, the Dwarf King made up his mind. Although he had killed these two, he had let that human escape. If he encountered him again next time, he would definitely... Before he could finish his sentence, a strange noise suddenly rang out nearby. The Dwarf King's eyes immediately lit up. He clenched his teeth and silently observed. Right after that, suddenly a powerful beam of light burst forth, startling the Dwarf King and causing him to fall down as the body of Shadow 1 was being resurrected. Everything seemed to be recreated anew. In an instant, Shadow 1's eyes lit up as he sat up, looking up in confusion at the ever-growing light. He couldn't help but wonder what is happening. Shadow 1 could also speak now. He suddenly chimed in his tone just like his master's, "You ugly thing." The Dwarf King clenched his teeth silently, observing what was happening. Shadow 1 cheerfully continued, "Surprised, aren't you? Before long, we meet again." The smile on Shadow 1's face resembled Van Muck's, as he said loudly in mockery, "Do you remember me?" The Dwarf King quickly stood up. "It's you, you're in that thing." Before he could gather his thoughts, Shadow 1 lunged at him with a gaze that carried a bit more charisma than before. The Dwarf King couldn't help but feel a sense of awe. Before he could gather his thoughts, Number 1 lunged at him with a fierce glare which had a bit more charisma than before. The Dwarf King couldn't help but feel amazed. In a flash, Number 1 kicked out with his leg, sending the entire body of the Short King tumbling down. He quickly sat up, not wanting to appear weak. But inside, he was on high alert. The power of the space curse was running out, and he was growing weaker. He silently calculated that he might need to borrow some strength from somewhere, like the power of the curse just received. The Short King couldn't help but shout, "You little brat, how dare you come back? Let's see how I'll kill you this time." Number 1 covered his eyes with his hand, trying to gauge if he wanted to play with lightning again. Suddenly, at that moment, he was startled, his eyes betraying his surprise. Wait, what is this? Looking at the tangled circle on the ground, Number 1 immediately recognized what was underneath. A curse formation, and he couldn't help but wonder, had it always been there? Why hadn't he noticed it sooner? Could it be that the Shadow's eyes could see energy clusters that human eyes couldn't? At that moment, the Short King raised his hand, and the curse formation, along with the lightning, began to gather around him. A massive beam of light was continuously surrounding Number 1, and he silently thought, could it be that this guy's power had been restored? It seemed that the sealing circle of this curse was his source of strength. He quickly calculated in his mind that he needed to find a way to break the magic circle. The Short King smugly announced, "All right, I'm almost ready." After that, he used all his strength to charge forward. "I can send you on your way now." The sword in his hand was quickly summoned, and the Short King was now more serious as he lunged forward, intending to deliver a finishing blow. Number 1 remained calmly standing there. In an instant, as the Short King struck, a loud explosion rang out around him, dust and smoke filling the air. The Short King shouted, "Damn, kid, you're pretty quick at dodging. Where did you run off to?" At the same time, Number 1's shoe was quickly near his head. Meanwhile, the Short King swiftly raised his hand to block the blow, moving and dodging with great skill. Number 1 was knocked back, but quickly used his hands to brace himself and avoid falling. His two hands slammed down hard on the ground, causing everything around him to lift into the air due to the force of his internal energy. Number one refused to give up and continued to leap up, kicking hard at the short king's head. But of course, he wouldn't let number one attack freely. His hands quickly grabbed number one's leg tightly, and at that moment, number one was a bit startled. The speed of the short king, if taken seriously, was indeed no joke. He gripped number one's ankle and threw him away, grumbling about how annoying it was. You're jumping around like a flea. Number one's body at that moment resembled a basketball. He was thrown far away, but suddenly he smiled lightly. And that smile quickly caught the short king's eye, making him look on in surprise. Suddenly, the expression of the short king changed. It seemed he had realized something. He stood there dazed, watching the speed at which number one was flying silently, guessing if he wanted to destroy the magic circle. Number one's hand was now reaching the circle. Everything was going according to plan, and over here the short king quickly realized, feeling a jolt, how could this be, this human? Stopping for a moment, he couldn't believe his eyes. He could see the sealing circle of the curse above him. Number one was extremely excited, laughing loudly. Found it. And so his two hands quickly slipped into the gaps inside, directly separating it. In just a moment, the sealing circle of the short king's curse was completely shattered. He couldn't help but yell in anger. "You little brat, you actually did this?" Completely shattered, he couldn't help but yell in anger. "You little brat actually did this!" The short king was furious, his rage boiling over as he shouted wildly, "I won't forgive you!" As soon as he finished speaking, he leaped into the air, the ground shaking beneath him and the rocks shattering from the force. Number one was affected by this, too. He sat up from the pile of rubble, coughing several times. Ouch, that hurts. He silently calculated, even though he couldn't absorb much more power. But he was still much stronger than me. Number one quickly thought, don't give him a chance to attack, but as soon as he saw him land, he was taken aback. Recruiting enemies. Just thinking about it made number one break into a sly smile. This move was perfect for the situation. Right after that, he immediately dashed toward the short king, who was slightly startled. An attack flew through the air, the rocks seemingly propelled by a motor racing toward the king. Of course, he could still dodge it. He himself was not harmed in the slightest. The short king looked at number one, mocking him calmly. "You little brat, you were so ruthless just now, and now it's my turn." He grinned foolishly and asked, "Did you forget that your opponent isn't just me?" Just as he finished speaking, number two suddenly appeared behind the short king, startling him. His eyes lit up and his fangs clenched together in frustration. He looked extremely terrifying, and before he could react, number two successfully knocked the short king down with a blow. Number one seized the opportunity, not letting the opponent rest, and quickly rushed in with a kick. Number one and number two were having a blast, treating the short king like a ball. They kept passing him back and forth again and again as he was hit repeatedly, only able to silently seethe with anger. Damn it, this guy's attacks feel like a drizzle. I can't escape from him. He quickly realized that direct attacks wouldn't defeat him if he continued this way. I'm doomed, the short king thought inwardly, feeling like he might actually be killed by this despicable guy. I'm going to die in such a disgraceful way. He then used all his reflexes. Finally, he grabbed number one's leg. I won't give up! Number one couldn't help but be surprised, shouting, What? The short king immediately climbed onto number one's back, holding him tightly and shouting in frustration, What the hell are you doing? The short king yelled angrily, If I'm going to die anyway, then you should die with me. Number one was utterly shocked. What? He turned around to see the short king's body expanding rapidly. At that moment, he quickly realized that this guy, he wanted to take me down with him. The short king's entire body looked like a balloon, and number one was annoyed. This guy wanted to go down together with him, and he was being squeezed so tightly that it was hard to struggle. Number one cursed loudly, damn it, at that moment. One of his arms shot out just in time, and number one shouted, Armed warrior, right after that. When he had completely tensed up, the short king let out a loud scream, and a massive explosion followed, smoke and fire billowing everywhere. This explosion was incredibly shocking. It caused the surrounding area to tremble as if there was an earthquake, and passers-by couldn't help but wonder what was happening. They were the elite squad of the Heavenly Cloud Palace. The girl quickly speculated, Did someone take care of the dwarf sorcerer? Why are we late? They quickly ran toward the scene. Both were extremely surprised to see a green figure flickering in the distance. Look, there's someone in the thick smoke! The young man couldn't help but curiously observe the armor he was wearing. Looking closer, he immediately discovered that what number one was wearing belonged to the War God Palace. Van Mu was pale. He suddenly woke up from a short nap, but couldn't help but be startled. Dai Hung worriedly asked, What's wrong? Did you have a nightmare? Van Mu awkwardly replied, Oh yeah, that's right. You were slumped back in your seat, which was really dangerous. Luckily, I managed to disconnect from the Dark Soul just in time, or else it would have been over for me. At the same time, the system announced, Congratulations, you have killed the most powerful space monster, the Dwarf Wizard King in the area. Van Mu looked pleased. It seemed that number one was still alive under the double protection of the armed warrior and the golden armor. Right after that, a series of notifications came through for Van Moo after this trip. It looked like we received quite a bit of loot again. You couldn't help but shout out in excitement, "This is awesome, we're hitting the jackpot." Dai Hung also yelled, "What the hell, you scared me." At that moment, Van Moo looked out the car window and excitedly said to his friend, "Look over there," Dai Hung pointed out. Van Moo immediately noticed that someone seemed to be surrounded by space monsters. "Isn't that Li Tu from our academy? Why is she all alone? Has she been separated from her teammates?" Suddenly, he had this bold idea. "Let's go save her." Dai Hung was surprised. "What, save her?" Van Moo quickly opened the car door. "We're all from the same academy, so helping each other is a good thing." But Dai Hung was panicking. "This is really dangerous." Looking at his expression, he couldn't help but wonder why he seemed so excited after waking up. Lang Tuye cheerfully replied, "Isn't he just looking at that girl?" This question also puzzled Dai Hung. Meanwhile, Li Tu was struggling with those monsters. "Get away from these monsters!" Her face was smeared with their blood, making Li Tu feel uncomfortable. "Damn those space beasts, they've gone crazy and everyone is lost." While speaking, Li Tu was frantically slashing through them. So focused on fighting, she didn't realize she had stepped on the tail of one of them. Her footing became unsteady because of that tail, and it viciously whipped around, sending her flying. The small body of hers couldn't help but feel the pain. Just as she was about to deal with the space monster, it took the chance to roar and charged at her. At that moment, she couldn't resist anymore. She shut her eyes tightly, screaming internally, "It's over!" At the same time, the neck of that space monster was quickly gripped tightly by a strong arm. Van Moo didn't look at her, but saw Li Tu with her eyes closed, so he had to call out to her. Van Moo easily lifted the monster up, tilting his head to call out to her, "Li Tu." The sunlight shone behind him, making him look like a god. Van Moo worriedly asked, "Are you hurt?" Surrounding Li Tu was a pink hue. She felt like her face was being kissed by a spring breeze, constantly flushing. Li Tu replied unconsciously, I'm fine," right after knowing her friend was okay. Van Moo immediately focused on dealing with the monsters. His body was covered in their blood, but to Van Moo, these creatures were nothing. He was still full of fighting spirit. "This is the last one, all done!" Li Tu stood there dazed, looking at the boy in front of her, thinking to herself, "Is he really Li Van Moo? He's so impressive." At that moment, a loud voice pulled Li Tu back to reality. As soon as she heard it, she immediately looked over at Dai Hung, glaring at Van Moo. "Are you done playing yet?" "Oh, we need to hurry back." Li Tu looked at him startled. "That pervert in women's clothing," Dai Hung grumbled. "That's not me." Van Moo pointed at Dai Hung. "Do you want to ride back with us?" Li Tu flashed a bright smile. "Is that okay, thanks?" The car quickly drove to school. This is the ancient academy of Kofong Lang An, and Six Kwong is still not awake. They were placed on stretchers and taken away. Van Muk watched his friend in shock and annoyance. "Hey, you should be gentler. He's injured. Do you even know how to carry a stretcher?" The two young men saw Van Muk from a distance and asked each other, "Is that him?" The guy next to him looked startled. "What, that guy's telling the story, right? You don't even know that their group has done really well, directly boosting the ranking of Kofong City by over 30 spots in the future. The city's status and resource allocation will improve significantly. The people of Kofong City have been at the bottom for thousands of years, but now they can finally lift their heads." While Van Muk was pointing and gesturing, suddenly from behind him, Duong An jumped up and hit him hard. "My dear little brother!" Van Muk turned around angrily and shouted, "What are you doing? You scared me!" Duong An grinned mischievously. "Did I scare you?" "Come on, breathe, don't be scared," Van Muk asked coldly. "Do you have any news or not? If you keep touching me like this, I'll give you a beating." Duong An, still thick-skinned, continued to tease, "Look at yourself. You must be injured otherwise. Why is your outfit so dirty and torn?" Van Muk showed his disgust. "I'm fine, just go away, don't touch me." He then walked around to get away from that annoying guy. "Damn, what's wrong with this guy? He acts like a creep. Why can't I see Lu Nai Tip? She hasn't come back yet." Looking around, Li Tu walked over and said loudly, startling him, "Hello, Tu Muk Muk." Van Muk looked over in surprise. "Is that you?" Li Tu frowned. "What do you mean, is that you so cold?" She wondered why he called her Tu Muk Muk, and Li Tu replied, "Isn't it the creep in women's clothes calling you that?" "What? Why, others can call me that, but I can't." Van Muk couldn't argue back with this annoying girl. "Forget it, do whatever you want," Li Tu said cheerfully. "By the way, tonight you don't mind if I look at the boy coming over, right? I think Lu Nai Tiep is back for lunch." The other person happily replied, "She must have come back." "I see their tank parked over there." Li Tu curiously asked, "Are you worried about Lu Nai Tiep? Are you two dating?" Van Muk frowned. "Why do you have to tell her?" Suddenly, Van Muk was so cold. Li Tu felt uncomfortable and quickly changed her attitude. "Forget it. Let me tell you, she's not seriously hurt, just a minor injury." "She must have come back to recover," Van Muk happily asked. "Is that true?" Then he walked ahead while Li Tu followed closely behind, not hesitating to speak. "Hey, let's have dinner together." Van Muck was surprised and asked back, "Dinner together?" She casually replied, "Yes, to repay you for saving my life, come to my dorm and taste my cooking." "But," Van Muck quickly refused. "Sorry, I really have something to do tonight, no time. I'll invite you for a meal another day." Li Tu felt a bit sad and silently covered her expression with her hand. Li Tu couldn't help but exclaim loudly, turning to Van Muck with a puzzled look, asking, "What's up?" She still smiled cheerfully, eager to know. "What day is the other day?" Van Muck couldn't outright refuse. He hesitated, meaning to say that it actually means... Dai Hung over here still hadn't changed out of that strange women's outfit. He was hiding in a corner, moved to tears, thinking that our little Muck has finally grown up. The passerby looked on with disdain at this weirdo who was crying and peeking. Finally, he could return to his own room, and Van Muck shouted loudly, "Finally, I can clearly see the reward after the little wizard king self-destructed. I can't wait any longer." He picked up each item, examining them closely, and as he unfolded the paper from the space box, it seemed like he saw something incredible. Van Muck was startled. Wait, he held that stone in his hand, his face darkening. Could this be... Van Muck examined the stone in his hand, wondering if this was the legendary space crystal. As he spoke, he brought the small stone up to his eyes for a closer look, and immediately he rushed over, thinking, "That's right, I remember it being recorded in the book." After rummaging around, he made a mess of the room. Van Muck joyfully exclaimed, "Found it!" He flipped through the pages, and finally he found the information. He placed the stone in front of the illustration to compare. No doubt about it, it was it. According to the records, the space crystal is a treasure that can open up an independent space world after refinement. The owner of the space crystal will become the master of this independent world. He was extremely pleased with this. It seems like this time he really found a treasure. The little wizard king also didn't self-destruct in vain. Right after that, Van Muck happily said loudly, "System, I want to refine the space crystal." But to refine it, he needed 30,000 points. Van Muck gasped in shock. "What? That's too expensive! Are you even playing the MasterCard? The crystal is mine. How can the refining fee be so high?" In the end, he had to compromise, letting go of the 30,000 points. There was no other way. After that, Van Muck closed his eyes to rest for a moment. Just as he dozed off, the system announced, "Refinement successful." Van Muck couldn't help but be surprised. He quickly opened his eyes, praising so fast. But when he opened his eyes, he was startled, looking around because he wasn't in his bedroom anymore. Is this the world created by the crystal? He delightedly observed the vast starry sky around him. "I can say I've seen it." Van Muck couldn't contain his excitement. He raised both hands and joyfully shouted, "The most beautiful thing." Van Muck began to sit down and assess. "Although this space is quite large, the ground beneath my feet is too small, isn't it?" He threw the stone he was holding, tossing anything into such a small place would fill it with stones. After throwing it, it immediately dissolved as if he were in an endless ocean. Van Muck looked at it, unable to help but exclaim, "Wow, it's getting bigger." He looked around again, thinking that this land would bloom after absorbing the space crystals. Suddenly, he seemed to think of something interesting and excitedly said to himself, "If that's the case." Van Muck continued to throw countless stones into the air. "Bigger, bigger," he gasped, lying down, throwing over 100 crystals in one breath. It was really tiring, wasn't it? This place must be valuable. Where Van Muck was lying now had turned into a much larger plot of land than before. He happily wondered to himself how this place had become so vast. "I wonder if it can help me in any way." Thinking about this, suddenly you realize that your situation has become so frustrating. You're being reckless, and you don't even know what it's for, having wasted so many crystals. At the same time, the system immediately explains that this is the crystal realm in your world. You wonder what's a crystal realm. The system says that the force generated within the subject is too low level right now, so it can only absorb damage from external attacks. You frown and bite your hand, wondering if it can also be used for defense. The system adds that the armor and weapons are now supplemented with the world's force, making your outfit a meat cushion. The system continues, but your current realm is too small, and the damage that can be absorbed is almost negligible. You can't help but exclaim in surprise. Is this small? Just take a look. This is at least 80 square meters. I realize that you've really been in a dark place lately. After arguing for a while, you feel exhausted. You sit down sulking, having spent 30,000 points and over 100 crystals. But in the end, I got something useless. You lie there looking at the system, but theoretically, as long as there are enough crystals, this crystal realm will be invincible. Or should I throw in some more crystals? At this point, you suddenly pause like someone who has gained enlightenment after temptations, feeling a bit uneasy. It's too dangerous. I almost fell into the system's trap. This is a bottomless pit. It just wants to bankrupt me. You scream to yourself. Even though it can absorb damage, it's still very tempting. But speaking of this, you fall silent again. You glance at the system, looking for a moment, and internally scream, should I throw in another one, just one more? At this moment, you're no different from an addict. The communication bell rings. It's Da Hung calling. As soon as you pick up, he hurriedly says, "Little Muck Muck, quickly change your clothes and come to the square." You're startled. Huh, what happened? Why the rush? Explain the situation. Right after that, you quickly change clothes and head to the place Da Hung mentioned, the square of the ancient academy. You run panting, and it turns out everyone is gathered. I thought Da Hung and the others had run into something. Li Tu sees you and waves happily, "Little Muck Muck over here." You walk over, unable to hold back your curiosity. "Why is it you lie too?" Feeling a bit disappointed, you say, "What do you mean?" You tell him to go back to his team. "Why are you always wandering around our team?" Li Tu says, losing interest. "Are you really that cruel?" Lang Tuye can't help but smile. Youth is really great. At the same time, a cheerful voice immediately rings out. You haven't even processed it yet. You're suddenly wrapped in someone's arms. "Lee Van Muck, it's so great to see you're okay." Nai Tiep looks over, smiling happily. "Long time no see Van Muck." You hug her leg, annoyed. "You scared me. Get down, you're so heavy." Nai Tiep cheerfully says, "I heard you were also ambushed like LaFoe. I was so worried. I feel relieved to see you safe." Seeing Nai Tiep chatting happily with you like that, Li Tu's face looks like a steamed bun, and at the same time a proud voice rings out, "Isn't this Lee Van Muck and his wealthy second-generation team?" That voice belonged to Hao Vu, who disdainfully said, "What a surprise, I thought you must have died long ago." He looked at Van Muck, wondering how he was attacking. "How's it being a lapdog for the rich comfortable?" Van Muck thought to himself, "Why is it this crazy dog again? What a hassle." Not seeing Van Muck respond, Hao Vu shouted loudly, "Hey, I'm talking to you." Before he could react, Dai Hung approached, glaring at him. "Haven't seen you in a while. No sign of strength increase, and your breath still stinks. What a major improvement." Hao Vu Tan was so furious that he lunged forward, grabbing the collar of this second-generation rich kid. "You want to fight, huh? Say that again if you dare." The cold voice of the rich kid startled him. "Of course I don't want to fight, but if you say you want to, then let's go." His face looked like a demon, his eyes like frozen pits, staring unblinkingly at Hao Vu. Faced with the imposing presence of the rich kid, Hao Vu immediately let go and pushed him away forcefully. Then he turned to leave. As he turned around, he came face to face with Uncle Van, who stood behind Teacher Lai. He looked at him with disdain. Young people these days really have a short fuse. Uncle Van didn't even glance at Hao Vu. He turned his face towards the girl sitting there. "Lang Tuye, put away your illusionary gun." "Come on, Lang Tuye," she said lightly. "It's already been discovered by the teacher." Right after that, Lang Tuye looked at Hao Vu. "You should thank the teacher. If not for him just now, your move would have been..." Her gaze was even scarier than the rich kid's by 10 times. Lang Tuye coldly threatened, "You're going to die for sure." On this side, Van Mu took off his shirt and stepped forward. "Hao Vu, are you looking for a fight?" The rich kid stepped back, grinning slyly. "That kid Hao Vu is really unlucky. Lang Tuyet's just messing with him. I can't help but feel sorry for this kid. Why did he have to provoke Li Van Mu?" The rich kid forced a smile. "Right. Langan shouted out, Li Van Mu always looks down on us 6 strong ones. Get excited, don't hold back." Hao Vu was in a hurry. He quickly charged at Van Mu, his internal energy fueled by resentment. "I've been holding back for too long. Kid, get ready to be taught a lesson." But faced with his imposing presence, Van Mu simply dodged effortlessly. Hao Vu began to feel something was off, but he didn't stop his movements. He threw punches left and right, launching over 10 moves, but Van Mu still dodged calmly. It seemed that Hao Vu really wasn't a match for him. He threw a punch right at Van Mu's face, but Van Mu quickly caught it, starting to taunt Hao Vu. "You're dodging like a dead bug. Come on, hit me." At that moment, Van Mu bent low to dodge, glancing over with interest. "Well, if you say so, I won't hold back anymore." Van Mu's punch was finally unleashed, and Hao Vu could only stand there in shock, unable to do anything. As the punch landed, Hao Vu was sent flying. He immediately yelled loudly, "Did everyone just see what happened?" It was just that Hao Vu had been knocked away in an instant. On this side, Li Tulang An and the 6 strong ones cheered excitedly. Awesome, amazing, little Moo Moo's blood dripped onto the ground. He still refused to give up, struggling to stand up. "I haven't even said anything." Van Mu also stopped to look over, wanting to hear what he had to say. Right after that, Hao Vu stood up straight, using the momentum to leap forward, a fierce flame gathering in his hand. Hao Vu shouted loudly, "I surrender!" Van Mook let out a small sigh, but he stood still, observing the crazed look in Hao Vu's eyes as he yelled like a wild beast that had escaped from its cage. Then he charged at Van Mook like a madman who calmly delivered a powerful punch to his face. Hao Vu could only let out a cry as blood gushed from his nose. Van Muck finished him off with another strong punch, sending Hao Vu flying once again. The students around were buzzing with excitement. This was completely overwhelming. I never expected Lee Van Muck to be this skilled. Seeing him sprawled on the ground, everyone was surprised. I thought Hao Vu was really good. He was even the main force of the team. He heard all the chatter around him, but he couldn't move at all. Thang Bao stepped forward. The childish fight had been settled. Now he could go to the storage room to claim his reward. Right! Van Muk immediately agreed. That's right, I've wasted too much time on boring stuff like this. At that moment, Tan Bao suddenly jolted, looking over at Van Muk. The scene before him was shocking. Van Muk spoke up. Dai Hung, let's head to the treasure behind us. Hao Vu, unable to win, pulled out a knife intending to sneak attack Tan Bao. Once he regained his composure, he shouted a warning, be careful. Van Muk remained calm, glancing behind him. Hao Vu realized he had been discovered and yelled, Lai Van Muk, I will never lose to you, you will die. The sharp knife in his hand was about to stab Van Muk. Hao Vu was filled with hatred, wanting to tear Van Muk apart to wash away this humiliation. Van Muk quickly dodged, evading another assassination attempt. He immediately grabbed Hao Vu's arm that was holding the knife. He applied a bit of force. With just a light move, the sound of Hao Vu's bones cracking echoed. He screamed in pain like a wild beast that had been shot. His arm that had just been fine, now twisted. Everyone outside watched in fear. Oh my, he just crippled Hao Vu's arm, right? That was truly ruthless. Don't provoke Li Van Muk in the future. Hao Vu writhed on the ground, yelling, My arm, Li Van Muk, I'll kill your ancestors, I want to kill you. He looked over at An Va Duong. He deliberately took out my right arm. I want to report to the guild, I want to charge him.